Chapter 1886. That's right, the trump card Old Ban was referring to was Duanmu Rong. Everyone in the Mo family knew about the relationship between Dustless and Duanmu Rong. They loved each other and loved each other. They had an advantage over the Inyang school. I object. There were exceptions to everything. Even though everyone thought it was a good idea to marry Duanmu Rong and Dustless, there were also people who objected. And it was a very intense kind. Everyone followed the source of the voice and saw one of the leaders of the Mo family, Daoji, who was secretly in love with Duanmu Rong. That's normal. Those who knew the inside story weren't surprised. Everyone knew that Daoji was secretly in love with Duanmu Rong. Unfortunately, Daoji's love had always been one-sided. The minority obeys the majority. Objection is invalid. Old Man Ban snorted, completely ignoring Robert's feelings. What's more, none of us have the final say in this matter. It's just this old man's suggestion. The key is Miss Rong's decision. Daoji was speechless and lowered his head in embarrassment. Just as Master Ban said, the decision was in Duanmu Rong's hands. Compared to the Inyang school, which had strict rules, the Mo family was very lax. The decision to marry Dustless was still in Duanmu Rong's hands. Old Ban was just making a suggestion. How dare you? Then why don't you give Shui? The infuriated Daoji suddenly shut his mouth. He did not say the word woman in the end because he discovered that a pair of eyes that contained monstrous murderous intent was sizing him up in an unfriendly manner. Hee. I was just kidding. Don't mind me. Daoji smiled. The owner of the cold gaze was Gao Jianli. He'd already unsheathed Frost E. Even the ground was covered in ice. Everyone in the Mo family cursed Daoji for being an idiot. He wanted to give Shui Nu to Dustless? Everyone thought it was a good idea. With Duanmu Rong and Shui Nu, they could definitely get Dustless to help the Mo family again. However, do you think that Gao Jianli don't exist? Gao Jianli glared at Robert Ji with a murderous look. It was only when the latter's hair stood on end that Gao Jianli retracted his gaze. It's up to you how you want to deal with this matter. I'll go back first. It was no wonder that Gao Jianli was so angry. He worked himself to the bone every day for the Mo clan, and now, this group of bastards actually wanted to give the Snow Lady to Dustless for a marriage alliance. He already disliked Dustless from the start and felt that he was extremely suspicious. Now, this group of bastards wanted to sell him out. I treat you guys as my brothers. How dare you help Dustless make me a cuckold? Gao Jianli walked out of the inn, feeling extremely depressed. Even though there was no concrete progress between him and the Snow Maiden, everyone knew about their relationship. These B***stards actually wanted to help Dustless cheat on him. How despicable. Daoji, your mouth is really asking for a beating. Don't you know the relationship between Xiao Gao and the Snow Lady? Old Man Ban looked at Daoji in annoyance. This was his idea, and it had nothing to do with anyone else. However, Gao Jianli held a grudge against everyone else, and they were all implicated. Don't you know that I have a crush on Miss Rong? Daoji retorted unceremoniously. You! The Mo clan's commanders were all speechless and could only stare at him. Old Man Ban, who had a headache, didn't waste any more words. The specifics of this matter depended on Duanmu Rong's opinion. If she didn't agree, everything would be in vain. Late at night, Dustless also returned to the Sage Manor. The Mo clan's people also returned to their base deep in the mountains. They discussed how to deal with Dustless for most of the night. In the end, Old Man Ban had no choice but to ask Duanmu Rong for help. What? You want me to marry Dustless? You want to rope him in to help the Mo clan? Hearing Old Man Ban's idea, Duanmu Rong was stunned for a moment, and then she was filled with anger. Master Ban, has the Mo clan become so incompetent? You want to sacrifice me to save the Mo clan? Duanmu Rong's face was full of anger. Although she was quite loyal to Dustless, this was completely different. Miss Rong, don't be angry. This is just a discussion. Whether you agree or not, it's up to you. Old Man Ban spread his hands and smiled bitterly. I have no choice. You know the Mo clan's current situation better than I do. Duanmu Rong didn't speak. Her expression didn't change, but her resentment towards the Mo clan had already exploded. When you first formed an alliance with Quicksand, I was already against it. Dustless and Wei Zhuang have an irreconcilable grudge. Your alliance forced Dustless away, and you only have yourself to blame. Miss Rong, there are too many things in life that don't go your way. It's impossible to have the best of both worlds. I only hope that you can carefully consider this from the Mo clan's point of view. After saying this, Old Man Ban dragged his tired body and left. Maybe what Dustless said before wasn't all wrong. Duanmu Rong's eyes flickered. She suddenly remembered what Dustless had said before. Maybe they were wrong to oppose the Qin dynasty. Why could the Qin dynasty unify the world? It showed that Ying Zhang had great wisdom. Could this kind of hegemony be accomplished by just anyone? From this, she could see that Ying Zhang was extraordinary. Why were the other 6 countries destroyed by the Qin dynasty? Because their monarchs were too corrupt and incompetent. Take the deceased Prince Yan of the Mo clan, Yan Dan's father, for example. This guy was incompetent and caused the destruction of his country. How could he blame Ying Zheng? If he had great talent and bold vision, the Yan kingdom wouldn't have been destroyed. Moreover, the people living in the Yan kingdom at that time were very miserable. The so-called violent Qin dynasty was completely self-deceiving. The people living in the 6 countries under the Qin dynasty were much happier than before. Chapter 1887. Clap, clap, clap. Not only the Mo family, but even their enemy, Li Si, was also furious. He smashed one piece of exquisite porcelain after another. Are you sure about this? Li Si looked at the pale man in front of him with a murderous look. Lord Prime Minister, I'm sure you know how powerful the Luo net is. The scary-looking man cupped his fists and explained, this is most likely true. Clap, clap, clap. It would have been better if he hadn't said anything. After Zhao Gao finished speaking, Li Si angrily smashed a few more porcelain pieces. Where did that brat come from? How could he be so lucky? First, he was the 3rd head of the Confucian family. Now, he is the left guardian of the school of Yin Yang. His existence is a threat to me. I have to get rid of him. Li Si's eyes shone with a murderous gleam. Even the wild beasts were nothing compared to him. Although Li Si was knowledgeable and capable, he was excellent in all aspects. He could be said to be 1 in 10,000 able to govern the country. The Qin state could unify the 6 countries with the momentum of crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, which had a lot to do with him. However, no matter how powerful Li Si was, he was still one of the many living beings in the world. As long as one was a human, they would have their shortcomings. Jealousy was one of his biggest shortcomings. Han Fei was killed by him. Now, there was an even more powerful Dustless. He was not only the 3rd head of the Confucian family, but also the left guardian of the school of Yin Yang. As for the original guardian Xing Hun, he had been kicked aside. The Luo net's intelligence was very powerful. Although no one knew that Dustless had become the left guardian of the school of Yin Yang, Li Si and Zhao Gao were very clear about it. And there was another problem that worried Li Si the most. Young Master Fu Su seemed to like Dustless. Once Fu Su became the new emperor of the Qin state, Dustless would definitely soar. Dustless was also the 3rd head of the Confucian family. The Confucian family, which had a grudge with Li Si, would also soar. My lord, how should we deal with that brat? Zhao Gao released his murderous aura and asked. Do you still need me to say it? Glancing at Zhao Gao, Li Si said coldly, of course it's best for this kind of person to disappear. But we can't let anyone find out that we did it. And immediately after, Li Si's eyes suddenly narrowed. Don't send a good-for-nothing to embarrass me. The assassins that were sent last time were all killed by Dustless. This time, at least send me a few powerful ones. Understood, my lord. Zhao Gao nodded when he heard this, and then he quietly retreated. Li Si would not let go of anyone who could threaten his position, be it friend or foe. It took him too long to climb to the position of Prime Minister of the Qin state. Li Si would never allow a Dustless to appear out of nowhere and be appreciated by everyone. Lord Li. Long time no see. At this moment, an incomparably sinister voice suddenly sounded out in the room. His expression immediately changed, and a hint of fear flashed across his face. This is... Li Si hurriedly turned his head and was shocked to find a large sword shining with cold light at his throat. It could slit his throat at any time and end his life. So it's Mr. Wei Zhuang. After seeing the visitor, Li Si immediately greeted him with a fake smile. He tried his best to remain calm on the surface, but in his heart, he was already cursing the soldiers guarding the mansion. A bunch of useless trash. Wei Zhuang sneaked in and no one knows about it. Li Si was so angry that he cursed in his heart. Ever since the Mo family's mechanical city was defeated, Li Si and Wei Zhuang's Lu Sha parted ways. Both parties embarked on different paths, and Wei Zhuang's Lu Sha became a wanted criminal in the Qin state. Mr. Wei must have something important to discuss with you for a visit so late at night? Looking at Wei Zhuang's terrifying eyes, Li Si tried his best to remain calm. Prime Minister is indeed intelligent. Glancing at Li Si, whose forehead was covered in cold sweat, Wei Zhuang's face was full of ridicule. He thought to himself, it's said that the higher one's position is, the more afraid of death. This is indeed true. My purpose is very simple. Lifting his gaze slightly, Wei Zhuang stared at Zhao Gao, who had already disappeared, and said, tell me everything about your secret conversation. If you miss a single word, I will cut off one of your fingers. Hearing this, Li Si was terrified. Cold sweat dripped down like raindrops. He knew that Wei Zhuang was not joking. Although he was unwilling, he could only confess everything. At the same time, Dustless, who was resting in the little saint's manor, suddenly opened his eyes. He quietly felt the changes in his surroundings. His deep black eyes shot out a ray of light. This is interesting. After stretching his body, Dustless sat up. His gaze was slightly frozen as he stared at the half-closed door. He quietly waited for the assassin who was about to break in. The faintly discernible cold air drifting in the surroundings was too sensitive to Dustless. Who is it? I'm really looking forward to it. With a slight shake of his arm, a pure black strange long sword suddenly appeared in Dustless's hand. The shape of the sword was very strange, and it did not have a blade. On the surface, it looked like a blunt weapon. However, there was no doubt that it was a sword. It was a very famous sword, Ink Eyebrow. Ink Eyebrow was the inherited weapon of the Mo family. When Yen Dan was killed in the mechanical city, this weapon fell into Dustless's hands. Chapter 1888. Even though this mysterious assassin was very skilled at hiding his murderous aura, he was still too naive to think that he could fool everyone. Creak. The half-closed door was gently pushed open, and Dustless was immediately attracted to it. Where have I seen such a ferocious gaze before? Dustless was startled by those deep, wild, beast-like eyes. He didn't think that the assassin was very powerful, but he had a sense of déjà vu, as if he had met him somewhere before. Who is it? Dustless lowered his head and guessed. He stroked the black eyebrow in his hand, and the rough texture made his palm a little numb. Could it be? At this moment, a man with a big body, powerful strength, and a terrifying aura suddenly jumped out in Dustless's mind. He was also carrying an extremely exaggerated giant sword. Shang-Chi of the Nongfu family. His eyes were almost as ferocious and terrifying as the mysterious assassin in front of him. His body was full of deadly oppression, and his piercing eyes made people unable to resist. Creak. At the same time, the half-closed door was completely pushed open, and a ferocious-looking big man suddenly flashed out. Just as Dustless had guessed, the tattooed face was undoubtedly Shang-Chi. Boy, are your guts made of iron? As soon as he stepped into the room, Shang-Chi heard the voice that he didn't want to hear in his life. He rushed to the place where the voice came from, and a man with a mocking face suddenly appeared in front of him. Who are you? Shang-Chi was stunned and found that he didn't know Dustless, although the voice was somewhat familiar. You are still Zi Chen. Dustless immediately removed the disguise on his face. His current identity was still Zi Chen of the Confucian school. Do you know me now? After removing the disguise, Dustless stared at Shang-Chi with a cold expression and sneered. Boy, I let you live last time, but you still dare to assassinate me. Who gave you the courage? Why is it you? Dustless. Shang-Chi's old face suddenly darkened. In his huge eyes, there was a strong sense of fear. Last time when he was beaten up by Wu Chen, it left an unforgettable impression on him. He would never forget it. You dare to assassinate me. Are you prepared to die? Dustless picked up Ink Eyebrows and slowly walked towards Shang-Chi. Wait. Shang-Chi quickly raised his right arm and explained, I only came to assassinate the third head of the scholarly faction. I didn't know this person was you. Ignorance is blameless. Innocent? Dustless couldn't help but smile. He sneered and said, I say, Shang-Chi, are you here to be funny? Now that you have come to assassinate me, you still dare to say that you are innocent? Zhao Gao ordered me to do this. I didn't know your true identity. Shang-Chi hated Zhao Gao in his heart. How was he sent to assassinate? He was obviously sent to die. Zhao Gao. In Wu Chen's mind suddenly flashed a man with a deep expression and a cold aura all over his body. He frowned and said, It turns out to be that kid. Shang-Chi, I can give you a chance to atone for your crime. I will definitely complete it. Shang-Chi was overjoyed. He decisively forgot Zhao Gao's mission. Last time, he blindly challenged Dustless and lost miserably. The overwhelming strength had left a psychological shadow on Shang-Chi. He couldn't defeat this man who looked very weak on the surface. Help me assassinate Zhao Gao and Li Si, and I will spare your life. Dustless rolled his eyes and said his condition. This. Assassinate Zhao Gao and Li Si? Shang-Chi's face changed greatly. He asked in a hoarse voice, You are deliberately making things difficult for me. What will happen if I refuse your condition? Refuse? Dustless's eyes flashed with a deadly red light. He said coldly, Then I will tear you into pieces immediately. Damn it! Shang-Chi wanted to cry but had no tears. Both sides were big shots that he couldn't afford to offend. Needless to say, Dustless's strength was boundless. Zhao Gao's strength might not be as good as Dustless's, but he had a group of lackeys. Altogether, he was also an existence that Shang-Chi couldn't afford to offend. Are you still hesitating? Seeing that Shang-Chi was in a dilemma, Dustless reminded him, If you refuse my condition, you will die here immediately. If you turn to assassinate Zhao Gao, you may still have a chance to live. Besides, have you forgotten who sent you to assassinate me? If it weren't for that culprit, you wouldn't be in a dilemma now. I agree to assassinate Zhao Gao and Li Si. Shang-Chi lowered his head and hesitated for a while. Then he turned his head and left. Although these words were suspected of sowing discord, it was an undeniable fact. If Zhao Gao hadn't ordered him to assassinate Dustless, today's things would never have happened. All the fault was on Zhao Gao's head. How boring. Dustless sighed. Just as he was about to go to sleep, an unexpected uninvited guest suddenly paid him a visit. The weapon in your hand. Is the ink eyebrow? Under the moonlight, the handsome figure's eyes were filled with unconcealable shock. This person's black hair was fluttering in the wind. He held a sharp long sword and stood with his hands behind his back. His puzzled eyes were all focused on the ink eyebrow in Dustless's hand. This guy. Noticing that this person could call out the name Ink Eyebrow, Dustless immediately knew that something was wrong. He glanced sideways and saw Gao Jianli. Give me an explanation. Dustless, where did you get the ink eyebrow? This is the inherited weapon of the Mo family's giants. Only the giants of the Mo family can control it. Gao Jianli's tone was as cold as snow. He was keenly aware that he had peeped into a huge conspiracy. The death of the giant, Yan Dan, probably had a dark inside story that no one knew. It's really troublesome that you found out. Dustless rubbed his temples with a headache. The boiling killing intent disappeared in an instant. Then please go to hell and reunite with Yan Dan. Chapter 1889. Go to hell to continue our relationship? Hearing this, Gao Jianli was stunned at first, then looked at Dustless gloomily, and asked in a hoarse voice. That is to say, you admit that you killed the Juzi with your own hands? That's right. I was the one who killed that heartless man. Not denying it, Dustless simply admitted it directly and said, I sent him to heaven with my own hands when I was in Mahist Machine Gate City. You bastard. Gao Jianli was furious, and under the moonlight, his whole body was covered with a layer of cold mist visible to the naked eye. Hee. Seeing this, Dustless casually smiled and waved his hand, and said loudly, Don't feel sad, I will free you right away, a dead man will not feel sad. Arrogant. Gao Jianli was furious, and his body was like a shadow with the wind, rushing head-on. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The speed of the afterimage was so fast that it was difficult to capture its movement trajectory with the naked eye alone. What Gao Jianli was most adept at was his incomparable speed. It was a complete victory over the enemy with speed. Ridiculous. Dustless lightly raised the ink eyebrow in his hand and said contemptuously, "Once, I have fought so many enemies. You are the only sad person who wanted to use speed to defeat me." As his voice fell, Dustless's observation hockey quietly spread out, and Gao Jianli, who was as fast as lightning, suddenly appeared. Too slow. Just as the cold shui was about to pierce his body, the ink eyebrow in his hand fell from the sky and smashed the oncoming attack in one fell swoop. Ka ka ka. The attack, which contained the weight of thousands of tons, landed on Gao Jianli's right shoulder. His bones immediately collapsed, and a series of cracking sounds were heard. The place hit by the ink eyebrow was badly mutilated, and there was a large pool of blood mixed with white bone fragments, and a shocking dent mark. Bang! His entire right arm was destroyed, and Gao Jianli could no longer hold the cold shui, and instantly fell to the ground. Suffering an unprecedented injury, Gao Jianli's face instantly turned as pale as snow, and his body fell to the ground uncontrollably. The torn wound was extremely painful. "You overestimate yourself." Dustless slowly walked over. Looking at the wailing Gao Jianli, he immediately said in disdain, "I hate hypocrites like you the most. What chivalrous path of saving the common people? It's all bullshit." To put it bluntly, Yen Dan was just trying to restore his kingdom. He wanted to revive the Yen kingdom for his own selfish desires. Was this saving the common people? The same goes for Zhang Liang. How can a lowly person like you understand the greatness of a tycoon? Even though his right shoulder was shattered and he was in so much pain that he broke out in cold sweat, Gao Jianli still retorted sarcastically, "You think he's great?" Upon hearing that, Dustless's lips curled into an almost imperceptible sneer. He asked coldly, "Yen Dan abandoned his wife and daughter. He even abandoned his own wife. Is this what it means to be great and noble? It's impossible to have the best of both worlds. In order to overthrow the tyrannical Qin dynasty, necessary sacrifices are inevitable." Gao Jianli answered with an expressionless face. He did not think that Yen Dan had done anything wrong. Is that so? The so-called chivalrous person of the Mo family is abandoning his wife and daughter? What a joke. After all, the Mo family is just a motley crew. You're just too hypocritical. You can't even protect your own wife and daughter, and you keep saying that you want to save the common people. How childish. You're just a hypocritical person. Dustless's words had degraded Yen Dan to be worthless. His eyes became deep and distant as he recalled, "I still remember that before Yen Dan died, he told me that he had the ability to save the common people, but chose to turn a deaf ear to it. He is not worthy of being a man. But in my opinion, no matter what excuse he uses, a man who abandons his wife and daughter is not even qualified to be a man." The most ridiculous thing is that the tycoon of the Mo family, Yen Dan, is the biggest stain on his reputation. He kept saying that he was going to overthrow the Qin dynasty to save the common people, but his real identity is the crown prince of the Yen kingdom. And I've always had a question. If the Qin dynasty is overthrown one day, who will be the new emperor? Are you sure Yen Dan will not be tempted? Hearing that, Gao Jianli, who was lying on the ground, was speechless. He stuttered for a long time but could not say anything. Suddenly, he felt that Dustless's words made some sense. Who could ignore the position of emperor? Moreover, the original Yen Dan was the crown prince of the Yen kingdom. How could he not be tempted by the position of the king of Qin? Only ghosts would know. You're speechless, aren't you, Gao Jianli? Dustless stared at Gao Jianli, who was silent for a while. He sighed and said, "In fact, among the 100 schools of thought, everyone is fighting for their own interests. Everyone wants to get a share of the future. It's all for their own ambitions. There's no chivalry to talk about. Don't confuse the Mo family with those vulgar sections. They are not qualified," Gao Jianli said coldly. His eyes were fixed on the ground, as if looking at Dustless would dirty his eyes. "Then why are you speechless? Lying to yourself will only make you look more guilty. By the way, before you die, I'll tell you a piece of good news for the sake of our past friendship. Of course, it might be a disaster for the Mo family." Dustless lowered his head and whispered into Gao Jianli's ear with a strange smile. Do you still remember the Black Dragon dossier that the Mo family seized a while ago? That's actually the bait that I sent Yueshan and Great Sea Ming to throw out. As for the purpose, I'm sure you've already guessed it. It's to catch all the hypocrites of the Mo family in one fell swoop. Chapter 1890. You bastard! Upon hearing this, Gao Jianli, who was still howling in grief, suddenly found the strength to shoot out a strange light from his eyes. He stared at Dustless like a torch. Hee. Seeing Gao Jianli's grief-stricken look, Dustless's interest was immediately piqued. He said with disgust, in the past, I saved your Mo clan a few times. Even when Mo clan was in Mechanical City, if it wasn't for me, your Mo clan would have been completely annihilated. So what? Now you have betrayed us. Gao Jianli roared with anger, trying to make himself sound more imposing. However, looking at his miserable look, it only added to his sadness. It was your Mo clan who first cooperated with Wei Zhuang's quicksand. If your Mo clan can turn against us, why can't I? Dustless glanced at Gao Jianli indifferently and said with a sneer, I forgot to tell you. Apart from being the third head of the Confucian school, I also have a special identity. The left guardian of the school of Yin Yang. The left guardian of the school of Yin Yang. Upon hearing this, Gao Jianli was dumbfounded. Looking at Dustless, who had an evil smile on his face, he suddenly realized that this man was too terrifying. He had only joined the Confucian school for a few days, but he had already snatched the job of the third head of the school of Yin Yang. Now he had also snatched the position of Xing Hun, becoming an existence that was second only to Dong Huang Tai and equal to Yueshan. The content of the Black Dragon dossier that you have seized is that on the 18th of next month, the first emperor will go on an inspection tour in the east. Actually, that's not the case. The person who will replace Ying Zhang on the inspection tour is Xing Hun. Dustless's words made Gao Jianli's expression change drastically. His heart was like dead ashes. Damn it! After a while, Gao Jianli was furious. At first, he thought that the method of obtaining the Black Dragon dossier was too simple. The people who were escorting it were only a group of Qin soldiers. It turned out that it was the bait that Dustless had sent out. Let's stop here. You also know that I have always been a kind person. Do you have any last words? Little Gao. Dustless propped his chin on his hand and asked in boredom. Last words. Gao Jianli's eyes suddenly narrowed, focusing on Dustless's body. His ice-cold eyes surged with cruel killing intent. His remaining arm had already reached out to grab the fallen Yi Shui Han. My last words are for you to die with me. As soon as he finished speaking, Gao Jianli grabbed it and stabbed it toward Dustless's eyes. His method was extremely ruthless. Dustless revealed a disdainful expression when he saw this. He focused his gaze on Gao Jianli and murmured sorrowfully, Are your last words for me to take care of the snow ladies? It's really touching. All right, don't worry and leave it to me. Just die on your own. Hearing this, Gao Jianli was so angry that he almost fell down. The long sword in his hand shook violently. He said furiously, Nonsense! When did I ask you to take care of Shui? Dustless, don't talk nonsense. Clang, clang, clang. The cold light of the long sword hit Dustless's head. According to common sense, no matter who it was, they would definitely die. However, there are always exceptions in this world. Your Yi Shui Han is too blunt to pierce through me. You will never be able to pierce through my armament hockey. Regardless of Gao Jianli's shocked eyes, Dustless indifferently removed the tip of the sword that pierced his eyelids. Then his eyes began to rotate faster. The raging chill all focused on Gao Jianli's body. Amaterasu! Boundless black flames instantly burned Gao Jianli's body. He howled miserably as the flames devoured and crushed his life force bit by bit. Not even a corpse was left. Mo family's residence hidden deep in the mountains. What, little Gao is dead. Everyone in Mo family looked at the self-blaming figure in disbelief. Everyone's eyes were wide open. At first, everyone thought that Gao Jianli was sulking and went out for a walk. Who would have thought that the result was so absurd? Yes, it's all my fault for being useless. I didn't protect little Gao well. Dustless looked ashamed. He handed the Yishui Han in his hand to Snowgirl and swore, Miss Snowgirl, I swear that even if I have to pay with my life, I will not let you get hurt. This is my last promise to little Gao. Everyone in Mo family was stunned. Snowgirl was the same. She trembled as she grabbed the Yishui Han that was covered in blood. Tears welled up in her eyes. Who killed little Gao? I want to avenge him. A sharp roar filled with endless hatred came from Snowgirl's throat. Her tone was filled with killing intent as if she wanted to be torn to pieces by the culprit. Damn. Do you need to be so scary? Seeing Snowgirl's godlike appearance, Dustless's neck shrank. It was Xing Hun from the Yinyang school. I saw him throw the corpse into the sea to feed the fish after killing little Gao. Despicable Yinyang school. Hearing this, everyone in Mo family glared at him. Snowgirl even broke out of the door angrily. It seemed like she was going to seek revenge on Xing Hun from the Yinyang school. Bam! Dustless flashed behind Snowgirl and knocked her unconscious with a karate chop. Then, he carried her to Duanmu Rong and signaled for her to take Snowgirl to rest. Snowgirl challenging Xing Hun alone was no different from setting herself on fire. Wait, there's something wrong with this. At this moment, a doubtful voice sounded. Dustless looked over and sneered in his heart. Zhang Liang? You don't know what's good for you. I've prepared everything. Let's see how high your IQ is. If you can defeat me, a transmigrator, then you can. Chapter 1891. Strange, Zifeng. What do you think is strange? Dustless remained calm on the surface, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. This guy always wanted to attack him in various ways, but he always ended up humiliating himself. Yeah. What's strange? Everyone from the Mo family asked doubtfully. Their tone was full of questions. It's nothing strange. Zhang Liang smiled and maintained his gentle and elegant manner. He looked at Dustless and asked, Brother Dustless, where were you at that time? Why do you know so much about it? I heard that you have a marriage alliance with someone from the Yinyang school. So it's this, Dustless replied calmly. Zifeng, I know what you are thinking. I was there when little Gao was killed. What? Dustless's words made everyone from the Mo family widen their eyes. They were already dissatisfied with Dustless, and now they were furious. How could this guy be so ruthless? He watched their Mo family members being killed without doing anything. Why are you so heartless? Our Mo family treated you as a friend. De Tai Chue shouted angrily. He wanted to say, our Mo family has treated you well, but sadly, he realized that the Mo family didn't provide anything for Dustless at all. In fact, they even implicated Dustless in some aspects. That's right. Why did you stand aside and watch? Master Ban asked with a gloomy face. Not only Master Ban, but everyone else also looked at Wu Chen, their eyes full of hostility. Everyone! Dustless smiled calmly and made up a story decisively. He said softly, Gao gently attacked the elusive mirage. At that time, the 5 elders of the Yinyang school, 2 guardians, and the sect master, Dong Huang Tai, were all there. I was no match for the enemy, so... Is that so? The expressions of the people from the Mo clan loosened slightly. In this way, they couldn't resent Wu Chen. Aside from the unfathomable Dong Huang Tai, there were 5 elders from the Yinyang school and 2 protectors. Such a luxurious lineup was enough to crush everything. What a load of nonsense. Zhang Liang coldly snorted in his heart, cursing the Mo family for being foolish. He was sure that there was a secret behind Xiao Gao's death. Why did little Gao go to the Mirage to look for Brother Dustless? Zhang Liang was still gentle and elegant, but his words were sarcastic. Little Gao is mature and steady. He definitely wouldn't enter the Mirage rashly. This guy. Dustless raised his eyebrows and continued to say calmly, I don't know about that. Maybe it's just spying. I heard from Miss Duanmu that you have obtained the Black Dragon dossier. If you want to crack it, you can only do so with 1,000 bronze plate. This sentence is really flawless, Zhang Liang frowned. He couldn't find the problem at all. Such a calm answer, as if he had thought about it in advance. However, It was precisely because of this that Zhang Liang was even more certain that there was a conspiracy behind Xiao Gao's death. How could a watertight plan be an unintentional mistake? The fact that Dustless was so calm meant that he had thought about it in advance. That's right. I've already stolen the thing that you want. A round copper plate suddenly appeared on Dustless's right arm. There were all kinds of mysterious words on it. This is the 1,000 bronze plate? Master Ban was overjoyed when he saw this. He didn't care about Dustless taking out the 1,000 bronze plate and snatched it over. He said excitedly, with this item, we'll be able to crack the Black Dragon dossier easily. That's great. Initially, the MO family members were still suspicious of Dustless. However, when they saw him taking out the 1,000 bronze plate, their doubts disappeared. If he was an enemy, there was no need for him to take out the 1,000 bronze plate. I can only say that it's a pity about Xiao Gao's death. Master Ban sighed and said in a deep voice, it will take a lot of time to defeat the Qin dynasty. Everyone, please be careful in the future. You only have one life. We'll look for Xing Hun in the future for Xiao Gao's life. A bunch of idiots. Dustless snickered in his heart. This groundless accusation was completely placed on Xing Hun's head. Sigh. Zhang Liang sighed helplessly. He was caught off guard by Gao Jianli's sudden death. Originally, everyone was discussing how to assassinate Dustless and Xiao Ming on their wedding day. Gao Jianli was full of praise for this plan. Now that he was dead, Zhang Liang didn't know if the Mo family would give up on this plan. Creak. The door of the quiet room was gently pushed open. Duanmu Rong looked over and nodded slightly when she saw that it was Dustless. How is Miss Xue? Dustless lowered his head and looked at Xue Nu, who was lying on the sickbed. He asked, she doesn't look well. Will there be any major problems? She's just severely injured. Duanmu Rong shook her head and said worriedly, you know the relationship between Xiao Gao and Xue Nu Sai. It's hard to estimate the impact of Xiao Gao's death on Xue Nu. I hope she doesn't have any other ideas. Ideas? Dustless was stunned when he heard this. With Xue Nu's personality, she might really assassinate Xing Hun on her own. Leave it to me. Dustless gestured to Duanmu Rong not to worry. He comforted her and said, the past will always be the past. Since Xiao Gao asked me to take care of Xue Nu, I can't let anything happen to her. When he said this, Wu Chen couldn't help but blush. After all, he was the one who killed Gao Jianli. All right. I have something to ask you. Duanmu Rong blinked a few times and looked at Dustless with a hint of resentment in her eyes. Don't tell me. Suddenly thinking of something, Dustless's face was embarrassed. Chapter 1892. It was impossible to hide the marriage between Dustless and young Master Ming, especially since Zhang Liang was involved. It was impossible to fool him. You and young Master Ming of the Yin-Yang school have a marriage alliance? Duanmu Rong's tone had a hint of complaint and sadness. She and Dustless had known each other for longer than anyone else, but the ending seemed to be a little funny. What made Duanmu Rong feel even more depressed was that someone else had beat her to it. Hearing this, Dustless was silent for a moment, then nodded and said, yes, this marriage was proposed by Dong Huang Tai of the Yin-Yang school. The head of the Confucian school, Fu Nian, also agreed. I am now the third head of the Confucian school. The atmosphere fell into a strange silence. Both Duanmu Rong and Dustless found it difficult to speak. After all, some things could not be easily solved with fists. Things that needed to be solved with words were often more troublesome and troublesome. Speaking of which, how is Sherlan, who I brought last time? After a moment of silence, Dustless took the lead and said, I have brought her brother, Yu Ziki, out. Sherlan? Hearing this, Duanmu Rong paused for a moment, then nodded and said, she is almost awake. In a few days, she can get out of bed and walk. Thank you, Duanmu Rong. If you have any trouble, you can find me to solve it. For some reason, at the end of his sentence, Wu Chen suddenly changed his words. When he realized what he had said, he was stunned. Everything seemed to be an instinctive reaction. Dustless was not sure how it felt. No need to thank me, it's okay. Duanmu Rong nodded slightly, but a strange light flashed in her eyes. That. Duanmu Rong remembered Master Ban's previous suggestion. She could only helplessly muster up her courage and said, Master Ban, I hope that you and I... Before her voice fell, Duanmu Rong's cheeks turned red. She was obviously shy. Could it be? Dustless smiled bitterly as he recalled the character of a certain old man. He immediately understood what Duanmu Rong wanted to say. With a strange expression, he said, "That old man. Could it be that he wishes for us to be together? To tell you the truth, that is my intention. Including the others." Duanmu Rong nodded with difficulty. Finally, she lowered her head with a sickly red face. At the same time, she felt rather desolate. She had always been loyal to the Mo family, and did not dare to be careless in the slightest. However, she did not expect that the Mo family would use her as a tool. That old man really has a lot of rotten ideas. He really put in a lot of effort to rope me in. Dustless sighed in his heart. He rolled his eyes unnaturally and said seriously, "Ronger, I'm not a good person. I'm worse than you think. However, if you're really willing to give yourself to me, I'm willing to do my best. I don't mind telling you directly. Perhaps, just as Zhang Liang is worried, I might be harmful to the Mo family in the future. If it was someone else, Dustless would naturally not empathize with their feelings. The winner was the king and the loser was the bandit. It was the nature of the game for the loser to be robbed. There was no need to empathize with other people's feelings. Only the one with the bigger fist had the right to change the game. However, Duanmu Rong was different. The reason why Dustless chose to be honest with her was because she was the one who saved him on the first day he came to this world. Although it was unnecessary, after a series of changes, Dustless realized that he had completely fallen in love with her. Dustless could deceive others. After all, he had always defined himself as a villain. As for Duanmu Rong, he only wanted to have a clear conscience. Dustless did not want to use any tricks. Dustless looked at Duanmu Rong quietly, waiting for her answer. At the same time, there was an uproar in another direction. B****, you damned guy. What are you trying to do? Have you forgotten who let you out of prison? Now, you're biting the hand that feeds you. The night was dark and the wind was strong. Murder and arson were everywhere. On such a beautiful night, another good show was playing out somewhere else. Li Si, you sinister villain. I'll kill you first, then I'll kill Zhao Gao. Shang-Chi waved his crude great ravager and killed all the reinforcements who rushed over. His pair of tiger-like glasses made Li Si tremble in fear. He was so scared that he almost peed in his pants. Fortunately, my neck is still here. Li Si touched his head. After realizing that his neck was still there, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It was not easy for him to get to the position of the Prime Minister. If he was killed by Shang-Chi, it would be a tragedy. Don't worry, it'll be gone soon. Shang-Chi smiled ferociously. His face was filled with hatred and disgust. It was because of this bastard that he went to assassinate the third head of the Confucian school. His real identity was Dustless, the super evil star. Last time, he was beaten up by Dustless. It was not easy for him to survive. Now, Li Si and Zhao Gao pushed him into the pit again. He was almost killed by Dustless. How could Shang-Chi not be angry? I've treated you so well. How dare you assassinate me? B****, I'll tear you into pieces if I find out. Li Si warned angrily. Heh! You won't have the chance. Shang-Chi smiled cruelly. Looking at the corpses on the ground, he slowly walked towards Li Si. As everyone knew, Li Si was a civil official. Although he was the Prime Minister of the Empire, his strength was not even comparable to an ordinary soldier. Chapter 1893. Realizing that he was forced into a desperate situation, Li Si was furious. He was the Prime Minister, but he was forced into such a difficult situation by an assassin. The prestige of the Prime Minister had been thrown away. Shang-Chi, don't do anything rash. Let's talk nicely. Even if you kill me, you won't be able to leave here alive. At the crucial moment, Li Si still gave up. He couldn't accept dying in such a humiliating way. I can only live if I kill you. If I keep you alive, I will definitely die. Shang-Chi sneered. This Li Si really thought that he was a kid who didn't know anything. For someone like Li Si who was so powerful, you should either kill him to prevent future troubles, or never offend him. Especially the words that Li Si said just now. Shang-Chi treated it like a fart. Li Si was a politician, and politicians had always been masters at talking. Their tricks of fooling people were unfathomable, and their promises were worthless. Go to hell! Shang-Chi's huge body leaped up and swung his greatsword. Great Ravager. Poochie! Li Si, who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken, was no match for Shang-Chi. A bloody hole appeared on his chest. Shang-Chi noticed that although the wound on Li Si was bleeding, it was shallow and not fatal. It couldn't take Li Si's life at all. As for the reason... Damn it! Shang-Chi continued to exert his strength, wanting to pierce through Li Si's chest. However, he noticed that there was a cold figure standing in front of Juk. Zhao Gao. Shang-Chi's pupils shrank. This mysterious man with an evil aura was the boss of the trap, Zhao Gao. Shang-Chi, I asked you to assassinate Zi Chen. Who would have thought that you would become so powerful? You actually came to assassinate the Prime Minister and even hurt him. Your cheap life is not as good as the Prime Minister's even if you die 100 times. Zhao Gao's eyes emitted a dangerous light. Shang-Chi, who was being stared at, felt a strong pressure. If Shang-Chi was an awe-inspiring tiger that could be said to be invincible, then Zhao Gao was an unfathomable hunter. He only had one attitude towards this beast that was struggling on the verge of death. Contempt. Retreat for now. Looking at Zhao Gao and Li Si with hatred in his eyes, Shang-Chi decisively chose to retreat. If the 6 sword slaves came, he would be dead for sure. The moonlight was like a plate and the sky was dotted with stars. Dustless and Duanmu Rong sat side by side peacefully on the roof of the thatched hut. The atmosphere was harmonious as they looked up at the sky. Sometimes, I really envy the stars in the sky. They can live a carefree life for the rest of their lives. It's so comfortable. Duanmu Rong rested her chin on her hands, looking forward to the future. There's nothing to be envious about. Dustless said calmly, a carefree life can frighten others, but the price is the loneliness of being isolated from the world. Everything has its pros and cons. What we see is often the most beautiful side. You're right. Duanmu nodded his head and sighed. He naturally understood the meaning behind Dustless's words. As one of the few commanders of the Mo family, there was no need to doubt his intelligence. Are you saying that the Mo family is the same as the stars in the sky? Dustless didn't answer. He just said to himself, in a chaotic world, it's good to have enough to eat and drink. The future of chivalry is uncertain in this era. It's too extravagant for ordinary people who can't even fill their stomachs. If they can't even fill their stomachs, who has the time to talk about chivalry? Don't you think it's childish? You. Hearing this, Duanmu Rong rolled her eyes at Dustless and muttered, You seem to be saying that the Mo family was born in the wrong era? Exactly. Dustless admitted frankly. Then, he narrowed his eyes and recalled his life in his previous life. He vaguely remembered that in the 21st century, even though Qin Shi Huang burned books and destroyed Confucianism, Confucianism was still preserved. It was the same for the other sects in the 100 schools of thought. For example, Taoism, legalism, military, medicine, and other sects were still preserved in the era before Dustless transmigrated. Only the Mo family wasn't there. The fundamental reason was that the existence of everything had a certain rigid requirement. The Mo family emphasized non-aggression and universal love. These political ideas were not the same as the ancient emperors. Therefore, the side that was attacked would prefer the Mo family. It was better for them to make peace. However, as the attacking side, they wouldn't be able to take the cities and benefits. That was impossible. Therefore, the Mo family still had a certain value in the Spring and Autumn Warring States period. However, this value didn't mean much after Qin unified the world. Human sovereign Qin's legalism. Therefore, there was the burning of books and the destruction of Confucianism. The books that were burned contained the thoughts of the Mo family. This basically cut off the Mo family's path of retreat. It wasn't until the emperor of the unified Han dynasty, Emperor Wu of Han, dismissed the 100 schools of thought and only respected Confucianism. From this era to the next 2,000 years, the Mo family gradually faded away until it was completely wiped out. At this moment, Dustless suddenly felt his knees become much heavier. He looked down and saw Duanmu Rong lying on his knees with a lazy expression. You'll catch a cold if you sleep here. Sensing that the weather was getting colder, Dustless couldn't help but remind her. A cold. Duanmu Rong smiled and pouted her thin lips playfully. I'm the Mo family's medical sage. How can I catch a cold? You're underestimating me. If you don't believe me, you can take my pulse. You can't say that. The words that were about to come out of his mouth suddenly stopped. Dustless's eyes turned. He sensed that Duanmu Rong's words had a hidden meaning. Thinking about it carefully, there were other meanings worth guessing. Where could he take her pulse? Of course, it couldn't be on a cold night. Duanmu Rong was hinting that he should send her back to her room. Wu Chen smiled faintly. He jumped up and carried Duanmu Rong to the ground and went back to the room. When a girl asked you to send her home, it meant that the wood had already been turned into a boat and the raw rice could be cooked into rice. Chapter 1894. The ancients' way of thinking is really troublesome sometimes. Seeing Duanmu Rong with her eyes closed and her face red, Dustless could only sigh that she was too reserved. If he wasn't an old fox who had lived for hundreds of years, he might have missed this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After all, the meaning Duanmu Rong wanted to express was too vague. Confucius said, food and lust are human nature. Mencius said, Confucius said. The general meaning was, food and drink, men and women. One was a matter of life, and the other was a matter of sex. The so-called food and drink was a matter of people's livelihood. Men and women were matters of health and pleasure. Life couldn't be separated from these two things. Both were necessary for human survival. It was enough to show that the ancients were far more open-minded than imagined. Especially since this sentence was said by Confucius, then Dustless, as the third master of the little sage manor, had to follow the meaning of the sage. Crack! Dustless broke in, threw Duanmu Rong on the bedding, and violently tore her clothes. Duanmu Rong's face was red, and she felt cold, but her eyes were still closed. Her hands tightly grasped the bedding, and she looked very nervous and flustered. But it was worth mentioning that she didn't resist, and didn't even say a word. Obviously, Duanmu Rong acquiesced to Dustless's next actions. It's just as I guessed. Dustless was secretly pleased. Seeing Duanmu Rong's pink and shy cheeks, she seemed to be very embarrassed. Huff! Taking a deep breath, Dustless was about to tear down the last barrier between himself and Duanmu Rong, but unfortunately, the ear-piercing voice that made him vomit blood instantly echoed in his ears. Although the pleasant voice was very pleasant and very gentle, Dustless's heart was burning wildly, and he had an impulse to kill. He angrily turned his head and saw a stunned Xiaofan. She was staring blankly at Duanmu Rong, who was lying on the bedding with her clothes torn, and Dustless, whose face was like a black pot. Did I disturb the two of you? If I have offended you, please forgive me. Xiaofan's soft face flushed red, and she finally understood why Dustless was glaring at her with gritted teeth. Mother Cur, you're not just guilty, you should be struck by lightning. Do you know what it means to have a night of love worth 1,000 gold? He should go to hell for interrupting others. Wu Chen's heart was filled with 100,000 alpaca army. His cheeks were twitching wildly. When Duanmu Rong sensed Xiaofan's presence, she hurriedly covered her face with her hands. At the same time she said in an extremely embarrassed manner, Xiaofan, don't misunderstand. It's not what you think. In the end, Duanmu Rong Yue found it hard to continue. She glared at Dustless fiercely as if saying, all the mistakes were caused by you, the jinx. It's an unlucky year. Dustless became even more depressed when he saw this. He looked at Xiaofan with a resentful expression, like a resentful woman who was in her room, causing goosebumps to rise all over Xiaofan's body. By the way, I forgot, you should take the medicine. Duanmu Rong showed an apologetic look, and then left with Xiaofan. In the dark room, only Dustless was left with a bitter face. Fate likes to play tricks on people like this. After a moment of silence, Dustless exhaled heavily, and the flame in his heart gradually extinguished. Anyway, his relationship with Duanmu Rong has been indirectly made clear. That layer of window paper will be broken sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. It's almost time to let that kid out. His pupils suddenly turned, revealing Scarlet Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Dustless shouted. Kamui! Ka ka ka! The void in front of him cracked like a mirror, and a miniature vortex gradually enlarged, spreading to the surrounding space, and finally turned into a large black hole, and then a black shadow swept out from it. Go to hell. The moment this mysterious black shadow flashed, it launched an indiscriminate attack on Dustless, and its stone-like fist directly smashed towards Dustless's face. It's better for you to put away your punches. Easily catching the incoming fist, Dustless explained. Ziki, don't you want to see your sister? She has been waiting for you. You Inyang School's lackey. Who would have thought that after Dustless's words fell, Ziki not only showed no signs of stopping, but also attacked more fiercely. Although his right hand was subdued by Dustless, his free left fist swept towards the side. You are... brother? The familiar and intimate voice caused Ziki's movements to stop instantly. He turned his head to look at the source of the voice, and what he saw was Sherlan's excited face. Sherlan was about to eat Duanmu Rong's elixir, but who would have thought that there would be a noise coming from Dustless's side? She and Duanmu Rong hurried over, but the troublemaker was not an enemy, but her brother, whom Sherlan had been worried about. Little you, Sherlan. Do you know this Inyang School's lackey? Ziki was surprised and happy, and at the same time, he stared at Dustless fiercely. The contrast between his attitude before and after was not flattering. Your attitude changed so fast. Ziki, is this how you talk to your savior? Dustless poured himself a cup of tea and said lazily, if it weren't for me, you would have become Yun Zhongjuan's meal now. He is very interested in you. What do you mean? Ziki frowned and asked in puzzlement. When they were on the Mirage, Dustless directly used a strange move to swallow him into a mysterious space without saying goodbye. Therefore, Ziki labeled Dustless as an enemy. Chapter 1895. What do you mean? Dustless looked at Ziki sympathetically. Smart all your life, but stupid this time. This sentence was not false at all. Why did Yun Zhongjuan capture you? You should know this better than me, right? Dustless sat on the chair and explained, you were made into the leader of the medicine men by Yun Zhongjuan. Seeing Ziki's confused expression, Dustless knew what had happened. Yun Zhongjuan had turned Ziki into a medicine man previously, causing this fellow's memory to be blurred. He had probably forgotten everything that had happened before. The only thing he remembered was probably Sherlan. The two of you can catch up for the time being. Sherlan, don't forget to take your medicine. Seeing the excited siblings, Dustless also pulled Duanmu Rong away. The siblings were catching up. If he and Duanmu Rong, two outsiders, joined in, wouldn't it cause gossip? Is that Sherlan's brother? After glancing at Ziki, Duanmu Rong looked at Dustless in surprise and said meaningfully, I heard that Yun Zhongjuan has an extraordinary status in the Inyang School. Since you can get someone from him, it seems that your status in the Inyang School is not low either. Humph, it's more than not low. At this point, Wu Chen could not help but feel proud of himself. He raised a finger and said, I've only gone to the Inyang School on the first day, and I've already snatched Xinghun's position. I'm the left guardian now. Let's not talk about this for now. You must have noticed something, right? Duanmu Rong suddenly narrowed her eyes and said with great concern, I keep feeling that Zhang Liang of the Confucian School is deliberately targeting you. Don't tell me you don't realize it. Of course, I know this. Dustless held Duanmu Rong's little hand. The latter did not resist. Since the relationship between the two of them had been made clear, Duanmu Rong would not reject Dustless. Instead, she felt very comfortable being held by Dustless. That brat's identity as the third master was snatched by me, especially. Dustless sneered and said disdainfully, Zhang Liang wholeheartedly wanted to pull the Confucians into the anti-Qin alliance, but because of my sudden rise, the Confucians and the Inyang School temporarily formed an alliance, and Zhang Liang's plan became a distant dream. Naturally, that kid hates me to death. Dustless was extremely clear about this. There was no possibility of reconciliation between him and Zhang Liang. Speaking of which, when you went to the Inyang School, did you see you, Thinking of you, Duanmu Rong's voice became several times louder. In this world, the only people she still cared about were you, and Dustless. As for the people of the Mo family, Duanmu Rong's heart was gradually filled with despair. Ever since Master Ban said that he would sacrifice himself to win over Dustless, Duanmu Rong's feelings for the Mo family had become indifferent. Maybe it's just like what you said. Being anti-Qin will only make the world more chaotic. Duanmu Rong saw it lightly, and her hatred for the Qin state dissipated a lot. Actually, there's a problem that I don't understand. Dustless raised his eyebrows and said doubtfully, Gao Jianli hates the Qin state because his elder brother Jingku was killed by the Qin state. As for your reason? Do you still need to say this? Glancing at Dustless impatiently, Duanmu Rong said bluntly, once you enter a noble family, you are as deep as the ocean. Ever since the previous great son, Yen Dan, became a great son, the Mo family began to target the Qin state. I was also affected. The Mo family was not like this in the past. That's true. Dustless's eyes suddenly brightened. Only then did he remember a big thing that he had forgotten. He immediately sneered and said, Yen Dan, that guy, is really not a good person. You? Hearing this, Duanmu Rong's watery eyes widened slightly. She looked extremely dissatisfied. After all, he was a dead person. Don't you think it's strange? The great son of the Mo family before Yen Dan, six-fingered black man, did not intend to go against the Qin state when he was still a great son. In fact, the period of six-fingered black man and the period of Yen Dan were completely different. Six-fingered black man firmly believed in the non-aggressive way, and had no interest in opposing the Qin state. When he was still a great son, the Mo family had always maintained a neutral position. However, it was obviously different when Yen Dan was still a great son. They had turned from a neutral camp to opposing the Qin state and were always targeting the Qin state. Don't tell me. Six-fingered black man was killed by Yen Dan's conspiracy? Duanmu Rong looked at Dustless anxiously. Noticing her abyss-like terrifying eyes, she suddenly felt a little scared. Do you think it's impossible? Some people want six-fingered black man to die earlier. After he died, Yen Dan would become the new great son of the Mo family. As the crown prince of the Yen kingdom, he would definitely oppose the Qin state. This is beneficial for some people, isn't it? Dustless looked at Duanmu Rong calmly and then said something shocking. The culprit who killed six-fingered black man was actually concubine Yen of the school of Yin Yang. She is also Yu Er's mother and Yen Dan's wife. At first, Yen Dan had been trying to persuade six-fingered black man to join the anti-Qin alliance. However, six-fingered black man was not interested. Wasn't it suicidal for a sect to want to fight against the power of a country? Six-fingered black man was not wrong. However, concubine Yen, who was deeply in love with Yen Dan, wanted to fulfill her husband's long-cherished wish. She used the Six Souls Fear curse and directly caused six-fingered black man's death. How do you know these secrets? Duanmu Rong was shocked. Even she, the commander of the Mo family, didn't know about this. However, Dustless knew so clearly. Don't forget my current identity. I am the left guardian of the school of Yin Yang. My status is on par with the moon goddess and only second to Dong Huang Tai. Wu Chen casually found a reason to prevaricate. This was completely nonsense. How did he know six-fingered black man was killed by concubine Yen? This was a benefit that the time-traveling party thought was a foresight. Chapter 1896. Duanmu Rong wanted to argue, but she found herself speechless. Yen Dan had been trying to persuade the Mo family to join the anti-Qin alliance, but six-fingered black warrior was not interested. Then, six-fingered black warrior died suddenly, and the leader of the Mo family was replaced by Yen Dan. The person who killed six-fingered black warrior was Yen Dan's wife, concubine Yen. Are you saying that Yen Dan instigated concubine Yen to kill six-fingered black warrior? Duanmu Rong clenched her fists with a complicated expression. If that was the case, then the Mo family was much more sinister than she thought. I didn't say that. It's all your own guess. Wu Chen shrugged and drew a clear line at once. He said frankly, I don't know whether it was Yen Dan who instigated it or not. But there's one thing I'm 100% sure about. The person who secretly plotted to kill six-fingered black warrior is concubine Yen. I'm telling you the truth because I want you to understand. Dustless paused for a moment and said in a low voice, no organization, no force is clean. Where there's light, there's darkness. This will never change. Everyone in the world has their own selfishness. It's human nature to fight for benefits. Besides, The word organization itself is derogatory. Then why did you join the Inyang school? Duanmu Rong changed the topic and pointed the contradiction at Dustless. She said faintly, I heard that young Master Ming is so beautiful that you lost your sense of direction, right? Am I the kind of person who's lustful? Wu Chen rolled his eyes when he heard this, and then he chuckled and replied with a question. Of course, perhaps I've really been bewitched by young Master Ming to the point of being unable to find my bearings, but I still found you. What does this mean? Even if I'm coaxed by young Master Ming, the one who really occupies the most important place in my heart is still you. Loquacious. No one will believe such childish words. Duanmu Rong snorted softly and turned her head away. Even though she said so, Dustless could clearly see the bright light that flashed in the depths of her eyes. Just now, Sherlon ruined all the good things for me. This time, I must take it back with interest. Staring at Duanmu Rong's plump figure, Wu Chen's heart was itching. Rong, it's getting late. Let's go and rest. Dustless stood in front of Duanmu Rong, with a flattering smile on his face. He said, You said you wanted me to take your pulse, right? I have indeed discovered that you are not feeling well. Let me take a look at you. After saying that, Wu Chen grabbed Duanmu Rong's arm with both hands. Pah! However, Duanmu Rong impolitely slapped Dustless's hand away and said angrily, Pulse? I'm really sorry, but after being frightened by Sherlon, my body has already recovered. Damn it. Hearing this, Dustless wanted to cry but had no tears. He could not help but curse in his heart. It's too easy for Sherlon to go to hell. That damned girl dared to disturb my good deed. It's not too much for her to go through the 18 levels of hell. How dare she ruin my good deed? No, no, no. Dustless shook his finger as an idea came to him. I see that your glabella is black and there is a surge of black gas between your eyebrows. You are obviously sick. Glabella is black and there is a surge of black gas between my eyebrows? Hearing this, Duanmu Rong was stunned for a moment. She touched her eyebrows with her right arm and asked suspiciously, The symptoms you are talking about, are you poisoned? This is not important. Anyway, you only need to know that such a terrible condition can only be treated by me. Dustless then remembered that Duanmu Rong was called the fairy doctor. He quickly corrected himself and said, Sick and poisoned are the same. A small illness can develop into a serious illness. A small dike can destroy 1,000 miles of dike. Narrow cracks are often caused by indulgence. You must be treated as soon as possible. Is it as serious as you say? Duanmu Rong was even more suspicious. Frankly speaking, she was not feeling well recently, but she always thought it was caused by overwork. So let's go back to the room now and let me take your pulse. Dustless finished his words and dragged Duanmu Rong to the cottage. A doctor can treat others, but he can't treat himself. This kind of thing must be done by me. Duanmu Rong was hesitant. Seeing Dustless's resolute expression, she finally complied with his wish. However, as soon as she stepped into the room with Dustless, Duanmu Rong instantly regretted it. Dustless first pretended to be reserved, then finally made a shameful request. Did taking the pulse need to be done all over the body? Duanmu Rong expressed that she, the fairy doctor, didn't know, but the arm couldn't twist the leg. In the end, Dustless revealed the most primitive side of a living creature, breaking the window between him and Duanmu Rong, and the two completely merged into one. Dustless took away her most precious thing inexplicably. At first, Duanmu Rong was very resistant. However, as the saying goes, the devil is 10. After all, Dustless was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years. In addition to his terrifying strength, he was also a profound talker. Under the attack of sweet words and flowery words, Duanmu Rong finally threw away her helmet and threw in the towel. Moreover, the two originally admired each other before, but the ancient people were thin-skinned. If he waited for Duanmu Rong to open her mouth, he would have to wait until the next life. Anyway, Dustless's skin was as thick as the city wall, so it didn't hurt to take the initiative to open her mouth. The next morning, when they woke up, it was already late in the morning. Last night, for the sake of safety, Dustless painfully set up a barrier, so that Dustless and Duanmu Rong hugged each other to sleep without being disturbed. When they woke up, the sun was already burning their buttocks. It's all your fault. Duanmu Rong angrily threw a pillow at Dustless's face. She found that she was staggering when she walked, and her face couldn't help but become a little hot. On that jade face, there was still a lingering lust. Chapter 1897. Dustless did not mind. Duanmu Rong had suffered a great loss, so it was only right for him to take advantage of her verbally. How is Sherlan's poison? She seems to be fine. Dustless asked as he put on his clothes. Yes, she has almost fully recovered. Are you going to bring her away? Duanmu Rong also wore her clothes with difficulty. Compared to Wu Chen, who was full of vigor, she who was tormented for a night, her whole body was filled with indescribable exhaustion. Her bones were sore and soft, and even standing up had pressure. You should continue to rest. If you have to put on your clothes. Hee, why don't I help you? Smack. Dustless had just reached out his hands when Duanmu Rong slapped them away. You don't know how to be romantic at all. How nice it would be to go back to sleep again. Dustless pursed his lips and retracted his hands unhappily. At the same time, Duanmu Rong had also put on her clothes and tidied up her appearance. Dustless then removed the outer boundary. A figure that had been waiting for a long time appeared in front of them. Snow Lady. Wu Chen and Duanmu Rong looked at each other. They were very surprised. Seeing her anxious look, they guessed that she had been waiting for a long time. Dustless, you have to do me a favor. Seeing Dustless and Duanmu Rong walk out of the room, the Snow Lady completely ignored Duanmu Rong's existence and pounced on them. Help me kill Xing Hun. I will do anything you want. Of course. Looking at the Snow Lady with dark circles under her eyes, Wu Chen guessed that she must have been so upset that she didn't sleep the entire night. Wu Chen couldn't help but feel ashamed. After all, he was the mastermind behind Gao Jianli's death. As for Xing Hun, he was the scapegoat. But Dustless paused for a moment as he recalled his plan. He continued, it will be difficult for me to do it in the near future. Anyway, I will definitely help you kill Xing Hun in the future. Thank you. Only then did a hint of joy appear on the Snow Maiden's haggard face. Gao Jianli's sudden death was a huge blow to her. Snow Lady, you have to learn to be strong. If Xing Hun finds out that he killed Gao Jianli, and you also become muddle-headed and despairing, that fellow will laugh even in his dreams. Dustless reminded him sternly and shamelessly pushed everything to Xing Hun. You're right. I can't continue to feel down. The Snow Lady's body shook when she heard this. She gritted her teeth and said, I must settle the score with that bastard Xing Hun. That would be great. Dustless nodded. After that, he gazed at the scorching sun in the blue sky. He suddenly realized that it was getting late, and he gave the Snow Maiden a few more words of encouragement before he left. As for the group of people from Mo clan, Lu Sha from Wei Zhuang, and other anti-Qin forces, they were all discussing a plan to deal with Ying Zhang. Ever since Old Ban had deciphered the Black Dragon Scroll, everyone had learned of its contents. On the 18th of next month, the first emperor would tour the east. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the anti-Qin alliance naturally wouldn't let it go so easily. After a series of planning, a meticulous plan was quietly completed. Zhang Liang even forgot about Dustless's question. However, what they didn't know was that this was just a bait for Dustless to annihilate them. The first emperor's tour of the east was also a lie. The person who would replace Ying Zhang was Xing Hun. This was also the main reason why Dustless didn't want to kill Xing Hun at the moment. Dustless strolled along the crowded streets alone. Shang-Chi? I've heard of this fellow before. He's very powerful. He's been imprisoned many times, but he always managed to escape. So what? He's still a stray dog now. He actually dared to assassinate the Prime Minister, Li Si. He's got guts. 1 million taels of gold. The price of this bounty is really sky high. Dustless saw a large number of people gathering in front of him. Out of curiosity, he walked over. The bounty of Shang-Chi and the crazy price immediately appeared before his eyes. His head is worth 1 million taels of gold? So expensive? After glancing at it, Dustless felt strange and left. He thought to himself, Li Si is the Prime Minister of the Qin Kingdom. He's second only to the Prime Minister. Only by successfully assassinating him can one get such a sky-high price. However, It was worth mentioning that Li Si might have really been angered this time. Not only was Shang-Chi wanted, but even the sect he used to belong to, the farmer sect, was also wanted. However, there were many disciples of the farmer sect, and it was impossible for all of them to be wanted. Only some of the important leaders had become criminals with a huge bounty. Seriously. I've gotten the Yellowstone Heavenly Book that Ling asked me to, but I still haven't found the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. On the quiet path, Dustless sighed in annoyance. The Yellowstone Heavenly Book had been given to Sun Zi of the Confucian School for reference. As for the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon, Dustless still hadn't found them. Wu Chen's footsteps suddenly stopped and he glanced back. Suddenly, a sneer appeared on his face. Still not coming out? If you can deceive me with such a concealment skill, do you think I can still be alive? Cough, cough. After a long silence, the burly man who was coughing violently walked out of the alley. Looking at him carefully, it was Shang-Chi who was full of wounds. According to the agreement, I assassinated Zhao Gao. He was injured, but unfortunately, he didn't die. Shang-Chi was quite miserable at the moment. His body was full of wounds. You have to provide me a place to recover, or I will tell others that Zichen is Dustless. Seeing Dustless was silent, Shang-Chi threatened loudly. Your injuries are caused by being hunted down, right? Dustless sneered. The light in his hand floated, and the heavenly sword of gathering clouds was compressed in an instant. His body flashed, and under Shang-Chi's surprised gaze, he turned into a streamer and appeared in front of him instantly. Poochie! The light that swept out cut Shang-Chi's head into pieces. Blood gushed out from his neck. Shang-Chi probably didn't even know how he died. The speed was too fast. He didn't even have the chance to draw his sword. You are just a chess piece. How dare you threaten me? Chapter 1898. The light that swept out forcefully chopped off Shang-Chi's head. Blood immediately gushed out from his neck. Shang-Chi probably didn't even know how he died. It was too fast. He didn't even have the chance to draw his sword. You're just a chess piece. How dare you threaten me? Dustless didn't even look at Shang-Chi's corpse as he left. Shang-Chi was simply too stupid. If Dustless was Shang-Chi, he would simply find a place to hide. From then on, he wouldn't care about the complicated matters of the world and could still live freely. However, Shang-Chi was too stupid. He had to find Dustless to die and even threatened Dustless. He was a typical example of someone who didn't want to live. Amaterasu. Dustless suddenly stopped walking. He turned his head and Shang-Chi's corpse instantly burned with black flames. The corpse quickly evaporated until it was reduced to ashes. Amaterasu then disappeared. Shang-Chi had also completely disappeared from this world. Inside the Sage Manor, Dustless was enjoying the beautiful scenery. The cool breeze was extremely comfortable. He was leisurely strolling around the pavilions. Now that Dustless was the 3rd head of the Confucian School, no one dared to gossip about him. You too? Raising his eyebrows slightly, Wu Chen saw 2 suspicious figures not far away. Then he called out softly. Ziming, Ziyu, what are you 2 doing? Dustless, who was standing with his hands behind his back, slowly walked over. He discovered that these sneaky Confucian disciples were Tianming and Xiaoyu. In the Confucian School, their current identities were Ziming and Ziyu. Dustless? As one of the few people who knew Dustless's identity, Tianming and Xiaoyu were quite surprised. The 2 of them opened their mouths and were about to explain when Dustless gave them a slap. Slap, slap. You 2 brats. You have to call me 3rd master in the future. Do you understand? Dustless's face was filled with pride. His eyes were filled with threats and teasing. You bastard. Xiaoyu and Tianming were both enraged when they heard that. Just when they were about to flare up, Dustless glared at them viciously. They could only suppress their discomfort and obediently say, Greetings, 3rd teacher. The 2 of them felt particularly sullen and depressed. Not long ago, Dustless had been of the same generation as them. Now, he had suddenly become their 3rd grandmaster. Just thinking about it made Tianming and Xiaoyu feel stifled. The gap between them was just too great. Very good. Seeing this, Dustless nodded in satisfaction. Then, He followed the direction that the two of them were looking at. Who is that? Dustless was surprised to find that a beautiful woman wearing a palace dress was talking to the leader of the scholarly faction, but because the distance was too far, he could only see a vague outline. As a last resort, Dustless revealed the Tensigan, allowing him to see everything within a radius of 50 kilometers. Even the slightest movement in the wind and grass could be seen clearly. Concubine Yen? With a touch of surprise on his face, Dustless thought to himself, why did she come to the scholarly faction? It seems that no one has a relationship with her. I don't remember Fu Yen knowing her. You two, come over here. Looking at Tianming and Xiaoyu, Dustless hooked his finger. Although the two of them were unhappy, they still walked over. When did that woman come? Dustless squatted down, stared into the eyes of the two, lowered his head and asked, how long has Fu Yen been talking with her? It seems to be an hour ago. The two of them have been talking for almost an hour. Tianming and Xiaoyu looked at each other and said in unison. Okay, you two can leave. Dustless waved his hand, indicating that the two of them could leave. It's really strange. Dustless also turned to leave, looking deeply at Concubine Yen. According to the information obtained by Yueshan and Great Sea Ming, Concubine Yen, who was imprisoned on the Mirage, seemed to have made some kind of secret deal with Dong Huang Tai. The content was probably to secretly deal with Dustless. It's better to find a time to test Concubine Yen. Last time, I promised you were to save her. With a plan in mind, Dustless also left quietly as if he didn't see anything. As for the purpose of Concubine Yan's visit, he had already guessed what it was. The scholarly faction was quite powerful in the Mulberry Sea. She was probably asking Fu Yen to provide information about Dustless. However, the funny thing was that Zichen was Dustless, and he was also the left guardian of the school of Yinyang. Moreover, he had appeared right under Concubine Yan's nose. Unfortunately, she didn't realize Dustless's identity at that time. Time flew by. 3 days later, in the evening, Dustless, who was bored, went to the Mirage to find young Ximing to catch up. His identity now was different from before. He was the left guardian of the school of Yinyang. Therefore, he could enter and leave the Mirage at will. Some people's every move could not escape Dustless's eyes. When he learned that Concubine Yen had left the Mirage again, Dustless stopped chatting with young Ximing and secretly followed her. Just as I guessed, Concubine Yen has been looking for me. In the dark night, the chilly wind blew. When Dustless saw Concubine Yan's figure and stopped in front of a wall full of wanted posters, the confusion in his eyes suddenly disappeared. This woman is really childish and naive sometimes. Is she really the first extraordinary woman of the school of Yinyang, Dong Huang? Or is it that married women are all very emotional and have erased their original personality? Dustless's heart was full of emotions. He was sure that Dong Huang Tai and Concubine Yen had reached some kind of deal. According to Concubine Yan's temperament, there was no doubt that she loved you very much. Dong Huang Tai might use this as a breakthrough. For example, as long as Concubine Yen killed Dustless, he would let her and her mother reunite. He would use such conditions to threaten Concubine Yen. She really treats Dong Huang Tai as a kind person. Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. After hesitating for a few seconds, he finally took the initiative to go forward and tell Concubine Yen the reason. Chapter 1899. Looking up at the sky, the deep night sky stretched as far as the eye could see. The moonlight was like a plate, and the cold moonlight made people shiver. Concubine Yen, who was sad, stood alone and did not fit in with the dead silence around her, as if she came from another world and was full of sadness. For countless nights, Concubine Yen would dream of living in harmony with Yen Dan and Yor as a family. It was very warm and harmonious, and they lived a happy family life. But dreams were just dreams after all. They were just illusions caused by longing. They were far from reality. This young lady, why are you all alone on such a long night? Do you want to have a drink with me? However, before Dustless could finish his nonsense, Concubine Yen just glanced at Dustless coldly with a warning look and walked away. Her eyes were full of disgust, and she was telling him that if he dared to follow her, she would kill him without mercy. Is there something wrong with this woman's head? How dare she ignore me? Seeing that concubine Yen treated him like air, Dustless was petrified. In order to expose his identity, he deliberately tore off Zichen's disguise and met concubine Yen with his original appearance. However, concubine Yen turned a blind eye to him. She just glanced at Dustless and left in a hurry. Is concubine Yan's target not me? Staring at concubine Yan's gradually disappearing figure, Dustless finally gritted his teeth and decisively chased after her. At the same time, he was speechless and complained in his heart. Is this woman crazy from longing? I am the prey she wants to catch even in her dreams. I am blocking her way, but concubine Yen turns a deaf ear to me. Where did she get the courage to be so willful? He had always been the one to ignore others. This time, he was ignored by concubine Yen. Dustless was furious. He turned into a gust of wind and chased after her. I am Dustless, your sworn enemy. The sworn enemy of your Yin-Yang school and the Qin kingdom. Blocking concubine Yan's way again, Dustless simply revealed his identity with an arrogant look. There are so many hopeless young people these days. Which wanted criminal would reveal his identity in front of the enemy? You must be crazy. Concubine Yen just glanced at Dustless and felt bored. Then, under Dustless's surprised gaze, she floated away. Other than you, everyone in your family is mentally ill. Dustless was extremely depressed, and just as he was about to reiterate his identity, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he hurriedly shouted, You and I have a very good relationship. She has entrusted me with an important matter. Sure enough, the sudden words made concubine Yen stop as if she had been electrocuted. She turned her head to look at the smiling Dustless, and her pupils suddenly shrank. Those eyes. His gaze was fixed on Dustless's left eye. Within the eye socket, 9 pitch-black magatama could be clearly seen. The eyeball had also turned purple, and circles of black ripples were drifting outwards. It was the rebirth Sharingan. Are you really Dustless? Was he crazy? Not only did he dare to appear in front of me, he even revealed his identity? What on earth are you up to? Concubine Yan's tone suddenly rose several times. Her face was full of shock, and her mind was in a mess. Looking at the calm Dustless, she couldn't help but frown and say, Since this guy knows that he is a wanted criminal of the Empire, why did he dare to come to me? Does he want to betray me? It was not concubine Yan's fault that they didn't recognize Wuchen before. The fundamental reason was that Wuchen's appearance on the wanted poster was very different from Wuchen's appearance. They only had 20 to 30% similarity. Moreover, no one would have thought that a wanted traitor would suddenly appear under their noses. At this moment, the reason why she was sure that the person in front of her was Dustless was because of the purple rebirth Sharingan. When Dustless defeated Xing Hun, he used his dojutsu to tease Xing Hun. In the internal meeting of the Yin-Yang school, Xing Hun also mentioned Dustless's dojutsu, so concubine Yen paid more attention. Realizing that concubine Yen finally recognized him, Dustless said with great hesitation, If the soldiers of the Qin kingdom were as careless as you, they would have been wiped out long ago. Are you really concubine Yen of the Yin-Yang school, who even the moon goddess is afraid of? You? Concubine Yan's white face was slightly red, and her phoenix-like eyes were burning with anger. She was very angry by Dustless's words. I'm curious. You know that I'm Dong Hun of the Yin-Yang school, but you still dare to come to me. Are you going to repent? This is actually not bad. With your strength, if you join the Yin-Yang school, you may be put in an important position. I don't need you to tell me. Dustless laughed in his heart. When he pretended to be Zichen, wasn't his identity the left guardian of the Yin-Yang school? If you want to catch me, go somewhere else. This is not the right place. Glancing at the mechanical bats flying in the sky, Dustless didn't care whether concubine Yen agreed or not. His body moved like the wind and rushed out of the city where there were few people. Dustless still had a lot of questions to ask concubine Yen. It was a waste of time to stay here. Sooner or later, he would be discovered by the patrolling guards. It would be troublesome if he attracted unnecessary flies. This boy. He is so young but his strength is so strong. He is even stronger than Xing Hun. Concubine Yen, who was chasing Dustless's back at full speed, saw his fleeting speed and became silent. Not to mention the others, even she found it extremely difficult to catch up with him. What does this mean? Is he deliberately going easy on me? Is he looking down on me? Is he slowing down and waiting for me to catch up? This boy is hateful. Concubine Yen was secretly angry. All the hidden energy in her body burst out and gathered at the tip of her feet. She sped up and chased Dustless relentlessly. Passing by, she could only see a fleeting shadow. Every time Dustless and Concubine Yen put some distance between them, he would stop and rest for a while. When Concubine Yen closed the distance again, Dustless would run away. Concubine Yen was angry. He must be deliberately going easy on her. When had she ever been looked down upon like this? Chapter 1900. Outside Mulberry Sea City, far away from the bustling city, it was dead silent. The dark winter environment added a sense of fear and panic for no reason. The bone-chilling cold wind made people feel uncomfortable. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Using the weak and hazy moonlight, the two figures that were moving at full speed also stopped. Not running anymore? Staring coldly at Dustless, Concubine Yen opened her eyes slightly and asked seriously, "What did you ask you to say?" "No, with your identity, how can you see you? Don't try to trick me. On the Mirage, even I can't go in and out at will, let alone you, an enemy of the school of Yin Yang. Some places are strictly forbidden, especially you, residents. And it seems that you have been following me all this time. How can an outsider know my whereabouts?" Realizing that something was wrong, Concubine Yan's expression changed drastically. She stared at Dustless and secretly gathered her internal force. As soon as she realized that something was wrong, she would launch a fatal attack to kill Dustless. At the same time, a terrible idea came to her mind, but she didn't dare to think about it. "I didn't know that you were so talkative. In fact, you ask so many questions in vain. Looking at your nervous face, you have already guessed it, haven't you?" Dustless's lips curled into a proud arc. His unruly eyes were filled with endless playfulness. "What kind of person can get close to you? Is there a need to ask? Of course, it's the school of Yin Yang. Why can I know your whereabouts? This is even simpler. That's because I am also a member of the school of Yin Yang." Dustless looked at the shocked Concubine Yen with a playful face and said flatly, "That's impossible." Concubine Yen denied without thinking and said loudly, "Even if you can sneak into the school of Yin Yang, it's impossible to get close to you. You's identity in the school of Yin Yang is extraordinary. Unless..." Suddenly realizing something, Concubine Yan's heart suddenly trembled. "Could it be that you are..." Just as you think." With a playful smile, Dustless replied proudly, "My real identity is Fa Zichen, the left protector of the school of Yin Yang. In that case, wouldn't all the problems be solved? Wouldn't it be reasonable? It's precisely because I'm the left protector of the school of Yin Yang that I can come into contact with you, at any time. I can also enter and exit the Mirage at will. At the same time, I can also monitor your whereabouts at any time. Everything about you is under my control." "You bastard. You actually hid it so deeply?" Concubine Yan's face turned green. She clenched her fists tightly and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She had been racking her brain for a way to capture Dustless every day. She had racked her brains and worked hard to find a way to capture him. But the ironic thing was, the enemy she wanted to capture even in her dreams was right in front of her eyes. He was even chatting and laughing with the people of the school of Yin Yang. He had even become the left guardian of the school of Yin Yang. Now, he was about to marry young Judge Ming. This traitor had reached such a terrifying position. Concubine Yen shuddered at the thought of it. Even Xing Hun had been kicked out by Dustless. Perhaps this guy would become the new leader of the school of Yin Yang in the future. The East Lord of the school of Yin Yang had been played like a clown by this Dustless. All the accumulated anger in Concubine Yan's heart exploded at this moment. Go to hell! The majestic inner strength in her body turned into a violent attack. Concubine Yan's body glowed with golden light. The endless night was as bright as day. Is it that boring Dragon Soul tour again? Feeling the familiar wave, Dustless felt bored. Yueshin and Xing Hun had used this move before. There was nothing different. Its power was only slightly stronger than ordinary true qi. For example, just like in Naruto, the Biju's chakra density is higher than that of humans, and the Biju's chakra is more destructive than humans, and the Soul Dragon's chakra is similar. Wait! Seeing that Concubine Yan's attack was about to fly over, Dustless suddenly said, "Don't you want to know what you said to me?" This sentence was more effective than a panacea. Concubine Yan's majestic power disappeared in an instant. She asked anxiously, "What did you say to you? Is she doing well?" "Of course she is. After all, I was the one who sent her to the school of Yin Yang. How could I let her suffer?" As for what she said, Silver's pupils changed, revealing his 3-tomo Sharingan. His eyes widened slightly, and the conversation with Yu that day was projected into Concubine Yan's mind in the form of illusion. What Yu said was far clearer and more convincing than Dustless's explanation. "That's good." After a while, Imperial Concubine Yan came back to her senses and smiled brightly. Her smile was so beautiful that even Wu Chen was in a daze. "So what's your plan?" "You asked me to save you from the school of Yin Yang." Looking into Concubine Yan's eyes, Dustless said bluntly, "You can find a place to live in seclusion. I will save you, or sooner or later." Live in seclusion? Hearing this, Concubine Yan smiled bitterly. It was easy to say, but extremely difficult to do. Not to mention the power of the school of Yin Yang and the claws and teeth of the Qin kingdom. How could Concubine Yan live in seclusion without worry? It was difficult to do. Dong Huang Tai once threatened her that as long as she dared to disappear, he would secretly kill you, even if this was a lie to Concubine Yan, she dared not gamble. After all, the bet was Yu's life. If she lost, there would be no more. "Thank you for your kindness, but..." Concubine Yan's eyes, which were originally calm, became piercingly cold again. Concubine Yan also looked at Wu Chen with cold eyes. "But I have a new plan, which is safer than what you said." Chapter 1901. A New Plan. Dustless's eyes lit up. His interest was piqued. "What's the plan? Tell me about it." "It's simple." Concubine Yan looked at Dustless indifferently. She didn't hide the ambition on her face. "I've exposed your identity. I've done my job well. Dong Huang Tai will keep his promise and let you and me leave the school of Yin Yang. We'll live a peaceful life." "That's the stupid idea? So you're selling me out?" Dustless looked at Concubine Yan casually and retorted, "You're right. Yu is important to the school of Yin Yang. You should know better than me. Dong Huang Tai won't let her go." Besides, thinking of the creepy Dong Huang Tai, Dustless said, "Do you think Dong Huang Tai is a man who keeps his promise? You think he'll let you and you go if you kill me? Wishful thinking." "I don't care about that." Concubine Yan threw caution to the wind. Life was like that. It was impossible to have the best of both worlds. She could only choose the lesser of the two evils. Hum, hum, hum. A clear sound rang out. Looking straight ahead, Concubine Yan's body glowed brightly. Above her head, a strange 3-legged bird slowly took shape. "It's the 3-legged golden crow formed by the dragon soul again?" Looking at this move again, Dustless was no stranger to it. The last time he tamed the moon god, he also used the exact same move. "Catch him!" Concubine Yan yelled. She pointed at Dustless and tapped lightly. The 3-legged golden crow above her head spread its wings and swooped down instantly. "You're looking down on me." Chakra surged in his body. Dustless's eyes spun rapidly. "Divine might." The moment he spat out those 2 short words, the void suddenly rippled as if it was being torn apart by some kind of undetectable but real power. Crack, crack. A small black hole appeared, like a bottomless abyss. Under Concubine Yan's shocked gaze, the 3-legged golden crow plunged into it. There was no more movement. It disappeared just like that? Concubine Yan was so shocked that her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Who exactly is he? Dustless's moves are unbelievably strange, and he is also very mysterious. The school of Yin Yang racked their brains to investigate Dustless's background, but this guy is actually hiding within the school of Yin Yang, and he even became the left guardian. Concubine Yan looked embarrassed and regretted her decision. If she had listened to Dustless's advice, she might have been able to live a peaceful life with her son in the future. However, if she were to oppose Dustless now, Concubine Yan couldn't help but think of a way to end this battle with dignity. No, I can't admit defeat. Thinking of Yuer's pitiful face, concubine Yen was furious. If you really like you shouldn't have sent her to the Inyang school to suffer. Dustless was silent. He looked at concubine Yen expressionlessly and did not refute her. This was indeed a risky move. It was undeniable that sending you to the Inyang school was like sending a lamb to a tiger's den, and it might harm you. However, as the saying goes, danger and opportunity often coexist. There is no free lunch in the sky. Everything has to be fought for by oneself. Only by going into the tiger's den can one reap the rewards. What's more, Yueshan, who was responsible for teaching you was one of them, and so was Great Si Ming. Hum. Hum. The clear sound spread again. This time, the light was even brighter. The night was dyed golden, and the light was so dazzling that it could blind people's eyes. Seeing that Dustless was silent, concubine Yen felt that Dustless was showing a guilty conscience. Immediately, she launched a more violent attack. It was no longer a simple three-legged golden crow, but a dazzling dozen of them. Weak. Seeing the three-legged golden crow soaring above concubine Yan's head, Dustless smiled contemptuously. The deep eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was exposed again. Amaterasu. Where Dustless's gaze was focused, a black flame burned without warning, and instantly swallowed the dozen three-legged golden crows. The sacred light was also wrapped by the black flame and slowly disappeared. Ow! 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 The arrogant cries of the three-legged golden crows turned into miserable howls, and finally disappeared completely. Damn it, this kid is more evil than Xing Hun. Seeing this, concubine Yen stomped her feet angrily. Even if Wu Chen just stood there motionlessly and let her attack, concubine Yen could do nothing. Is this the end? If you have any other moves, use them all together. Dustless put his hands in his sleeves and looked at concubine Yen quietly. Although this woman was cruel and cold, she was Yen Dan's wife. However, her temperament was the opposite of Yen Dan's. At least she liked you and was not as cold and heartless as Yen Dan. No matter what, I will catch you and send you to Donghuang Tai. Concubine Yen gritted her teeth and stared at Dustless. She subconsciously clenched her fists. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Concubine Yen pounced on Jiang Chen again with a sharp sound. Not bad. Her crystal pupils glowed with indomitable courage, filled with a strange smell of death. Seeing this, Wu Chen showed a rare admiring expression and said with a smile, Concubine Yen, if Yueshan and Great Si Ming are my people, do you still plan to fight against me? Are you talking in your sleep? As soon as he said that, concubine Yen, who was rushing over, stopped in her tracks. Her beautiful eyes widened as she looked at the man who had a faint smile on his face from beginning to end. Yueshan and Great Si Ming are your men? Are you saying that they have already submitted to you? That's impossible. Do you think you are Donghuang Tai? But that's the truth. It only means that I am more charming than Donghuang Tai, and I am more worthy of their sacrifice. To put it bluntly, we are all on the same side. Dustless said with a hint of pride. He suddenly realized that he had almost dug through the corners of the school of Inyang. Chapter 1902. Concubine Yen was stunned by Dustless's shocking words. Her eyes were blank and her mind was numb. She stared at the calm Dustless, her clear eyes taking in everything. She didn't look guilty at all. You're saying that Yueshan and Great Si Ming have joined you. I can't accept this. Concubine Yen tried to accept Dustless's words, but no matter what, it was too surreal. After all, Yueshan and Great Si Ming were Donghuang Tai's best friends. If he wanted to trick them into betraying him, he might as well kill them. That would be more realistic. Concubine Yen, don't look suspicious. You have to understand that nothing is impossible in this world. Everything is full of unknown variables. Dustless explained in a low voice. You've also noticed Yuer's recent situation in the school of Inyang, right? She didn't get hurt or lose her memories. Instead, her astrology skills are getting better and better. This already explains everything. It's because Yueshan is under my command that she takes good care of you. That's true. Concubine Yen nodded numbly. The one who taught you astrology was probably Yueshan. So, do you still want to fight me? Seeing concubine Yan's eyes flickering, Dustless knew that she was still making the final decision. You can't defeat me. Only by joining me and finding another way out and letting me become the new master of the school of Yinyang will you and your daughter have a chance to break out of the cocoon and be reborn. By then, all your wishes will come true. The new master of the school of Yinyang. Concubine Yen was stunned. She looked at Dustless in shock and asked in a trembling voice, Are you going to kill Dong Huang Tai? As you said, it was impossible to make Dong Huang Tai give up the location of the school of Yinyang's boss. In that case, he could only take it by force. Find a suitable place and kill him. From then on, the school of Yinyang will be my territory. That arrogant old man is too much of an eyesore. This guy is really black-hearted. Concubine Yan's expression changed slightly. Dong Huang Tai had given Dustless the position of left guardian, which was already a great favor. Now this guy wanted to kill Dong Huang Tai even more. Concubine Yen felt that Dustless was really vicious. I can't think of a reason why you want to kill Dong Huang Tai. There's no need at all. You two shouldn't have any conflict of interest. Why? 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Dustless shut Concubine Yen up with one sentence. He said coldly, Anyone who dares to meddle with the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon is my enemy and must die. Moreover, he pulled me into the school of Yinyang and gave me the position of left guardian. Wasn't he using me? Since that's the case, we're all in the same boat from now on. After thinking for a while, Concubine Yen finally decided to tie herself to Dustless's pirate ship. In fact, her heart was filled with hatred towards Dong Huang Tai. If it were not for him, perhaps she would be living a peaceful life with Yen Dan and Yu Er right now. By the way, there's something I forgot to tell you. His eyes narrowed slightly, shooting out a cunning and sinister light. Your husband, Yen Dan, was killed by Dong Huang Tai. He sent someone to kill Yen Dan. What? Yen Dan is dead? He's the son of the Mo family. I know how powerful he is. How could he be killed so easily? It must be a rumor. Concubine Yen was stunned, as if she had been struck by lightning. She looked at Dustless in a daze. But this is the unchangeable truth. Dustless nodded slowly and admitted. The person who killed Yen Dan was naturally Dustless. However, due to the needs of the plot, Dustless decisively pushed all the blame to Xing Hun and Dong Huang Tai. Anyway, no one saw it at that time. It was a good opportunity to arouse Concubine Yan's hatred towards the school of Yinyang. She could not wait to tear Dong Huang Tai into pieces. This way, Concubine Yen would stand firmly on Dustless's side. I saw it with my own eyes. Dustless's face was filled with grief. He said in a sorrowful tone, Hero Yen was ambushed by Xing Hun that day. Although he was severely injured and left with a fatal injury, he still refused to bow down to Xing Hun. In order to cover the retreat of the Mo family, he died in the battle. Dustless spoke in a tearful voice. The surrounding atmosphere was affected and filled with grief. Xing Hun and Dong Huang Tai. As expected, just as Dustless had expected, Concubine Yan's eyes turned cold. The rolling cold air in her eyes almost solidified into solid ice. Xing Hun, take on more of the blame for me. When I go to hell in the future, I'll burn more paper money for you. Dustless looked desolate, but he was laughing in his heart. Dustless had pushed Gao Jianli and Yen Dan's deaths onto Xing Hun. Cough cough. Seeing that Concubine Yen was furious, Dustless quickly walked over and patted her shoulder. He rolled his eyes and used the same words he used to comfort the Snow Lady. Concubine Yen, you have to be more open-minded. If you continue to give up on yourself, Xing Hun will wake up laughing in his dreams. You're right. Concubine Yen nodded. She retracted the tears in her eyes. Dong Huang Tai and Xing Hun must die. Don't worry. This is inevitable. We can go back now. If we delay any longer, someone might become suspicious. Sensing that Concubine Yen had changed her mind, Dustless relaxed his shoulders and said as he walked, The Black Dragon dossier that was sent out last time was one of the plans to annihilate the Mo family. Xing Hun is also one of the main characters, so we can only let him live for a few more days. I promise that after the plan is completed, I'll send that guy to heaven. That's for the best. Concubine Yan's tone was filled with a sense of belonging when she heard this. If Dustless was the type to talk but not do anything, this little alliance would collapse sooner or later. At the same time, Concubine Yen also realized that running away would not solve the problem. Only by completely eliminating the root of the problem, Dong Huang Tai, could she and Yu be saved. Chapter 1903. Can you let me meet you once? Concubine Yen looked at Dustless expectantly. Her eyes were sparkling and her face was full of pleading. Although she was free now, her actions were restricted. After all, she had betrayed the Yinyang school. As for meeting Yu, unless Dong Huang Tai agreed, the chances were slim. Just for a while. Just a few words. Concubine Yen pulled Dustless's clothes and asked for help. It's not a big problem. As long as I find the right opportunity, I'll let you meet. Seeing Concubine Yen about to cry, Dustless sympathized with her. In fact, it was a small matter. It was Yueshin who was responsible for monitoring Yu. As long as he told Yueshin in advance, it would be fine. Thank you. Hearing this, Concubine Yen was very excited and sincerely bowed to Dustless to thank him. It's a small matter. Don't worry about it. Wuchen glanced at Concubine Yen. Due to the fact that Concubine Yen was bending over, Wuchen happened to catch a glimpse of the fair skin on her chest. His expression immediately became unnatural, and his tone was a little shaky. Dustless's eyesight was so good that he could see deep into her snow-white skin. What's the problem? Concubine Yen was not an ordinary person. Naturally, she could hear the subtle change in Dustless's tone. She looked at Dustless curiously. Seeing his erratic eyes, which seemed to be looking at her chest, Concubine Yen remembered that she was so emotional just now. Her perfect face was full of blush and embarrassment. Rogue! Concubine Yen snorted and regained her composure. She left as if nothing had happened. It seemed that she was going back to the mirage. What does it have to do with me? Dustless was depressed. Concubine Yan's behavior was caused by her emotional outburst. What did it have to do with him? Only women and villains are difficult to deal with. Prime Minister. In the courtyard that was filled with Qin army, numerous fierce cavalrymen of Qin state were standing there, looking majestic and awe-inspiring. The long spears held in their hands were glinting with a cold light. Each of these soldiers was emanating a violent aura. Presumably, they were all seasoned soldiers who had been on the battlefield for a long time. And the most important thing was that these Qin soldiers were not just one or two but a large group. This elegant courtyard was the residence of Prime Minister Li Si in Shanghai. Since he was assassinated by Shang-Chi last time, Li Si had been on tenterhooks and had mobilized a large number of armored soldiers of Qin state in his residence. The higher one stood, the more one feared death. In the past, when he was poor, he had nothing to lose. Anyway, his life was worthless, so he did not care if he died. But now it was different. Li Si was the prime minister and had helped Ding Zhang conquer the 6 states. Now was his time to shine. How could he die just like that? In particular, Shang-Chi's assassination attempt last time had left a shadow in Li Si's heart. Now, he was more concerned about his own safety. It's Zhao Gao. Li Si, who was lying in the hospital bed, opened his eyes and looked at Zhao Gao and the 6 sword slaves behind him. He suppressed his anger and asked, Shang-Chi, that traitor, how is he now? It's better to catch him alive. I want that guy to feel the pain that he has suffered. Reporting to Prime Minister, someone saw Shang-Chi being killed. Zhao Gao calmly reported, at that time, someone happened to see Zichen of Confucianism killing Shang-Chi. Zichen of Confucianism? Hearing this, Li Si's eyes suddenly became cold. That guy. Why does everything have to do with him? Does he deliberately go against me? I don't know about this, but... Zhao Gao's eyes were shining, and he analyzed. Prime Minister, it's very likely that Zichen ordered Shang-Chi to assassinate you. Your opinion is the same as mine this time. Li Si agreed, and then he asked expectantly, do you have evidence? If you can find evidence that Zichen ordered Shang-Chi to assassinate me, then I can catch him openly. If it was an ordinary person, Li Si and Zhao Gao naturally wouldn't care. They would even say that if he was suspicious, they could just kill him. But Dustless was different. First of all, he was the 3rd head of Confucianism, and second, He was the left guardian of Yinyang School. He was also related to young Master Ming by marriage and was about to get married. Catching such a person was like poking a hornet's nest. Without evidence, the unlucky one would be the one who would be unlucky. Evidence. Zhao Gao's tone was filled with helplessness and frustration. He said apologetically, "I didn't do a good job. I haven't found any evidence that Zichen and Shang-Chi colluded." "You haven't found it?" Li Si was immediately unhappy. He was furious. As the Prime Minister, he had been assassinated. Could it be that he had to pretend that nothing had happened? That would be too humiliating. Shang-Chi was killed by Zichen. He didn't even leave a corpse. Even his sword, Juk, was taken away by Zichen. There is no evidence to accuse him at all. Zhao Gao was helpless. Dustless didn't leave anything. Where could they find evidence? And, Prime Minister, have you forgotten the relationship between young Master and Zichen? Zhao Gao said meaningfully, even if we take 10,000 steps back and think about it, even if you really found evidence and severely punished Zichen, would the young Master just stand by and watch him die? Prime Minister, don't forget that young Master is the kind of person who knows how to repay kindness. Zichen saved his life last time. Of course I know this. Li Si's face was full of bad luck. He was the Prime Minister, but he was inferior to a disciple of Confucianism. How could he not be angry? In other words, to get rid of Zichen, we have to get rid of young Master Fu Su first? Li Si's eyes shone with a light that was about to devour Fu Su. In history, Fu Su had committed suicide, falling under the scheme of Zhao Gao and Li Si. Chapter 1904. Why did Li Si frame Fu Su? This question was related to the power struggle within the empire. Fu Su valued the Meng family. Generals like Meng Tian and Meng Yi were highly valued by Fu Su. When Fu Su became the emperor in the future, the Meng family would definitely be placed in an important position. On the contrary, Li Si and his family would definitely decline. How could one allow others to sleep beside one's bed? Naturally, Li Si would not allow such a thing to happen. Hence, he worked together with Zhao Gao to frame Fu Su. The two of them started the Sand Dune coup together. Originally, after Qin Shi Huang Yingzheng died, he appointed Prince Fu Su as the emperor. However, Li Si and Zhao Gao changed the rules and appointed Hu Hai as the emperor. They also ordered the death of Fu Su and Meng Tian, who were outside the Great Wall. After that, the second Qin Hu Hai became the emperor, while Li Si and Zhao Gao also rose to the heavens. However, the tragic thing was that not long after, Li Si was killed by Zhao Gao, and his ending was extremely miserable. "Lord," Zhao Gao looked at Li Si with a sinister expression and said, "Young Master, once Fu Su obtains the throne, you should know the relationship between Zichen and Fu Su. He will definitely rise in status. We are Zichen's enemies and will definitely receive terrible revenge. So what should we do?" Li Si looked at Zhao Gao expressionlessly. Those black eyes were filled with wisdom that touched one's heart. It was undeniable that Li Si was indeed a famous minister. He helped Ying Zheng to unify the 6 states. However, as the saying goes, no one is perfect. Everyone has their flaws. Li Si's biggest flaw was that he placed too much emphasis on power. If he could succeed and retreat, he would not have such a miserable ending in history. Even the Qin state would not have been destroyed. "We should immediately eliminate Zichen," Zhao Gao said with a respectful expression. However, the corner of his lips curled up at a strange angle. He looked very cunning. "Humph. Eliminate Zichen? Assassination? Forget it. After he dies, young Master will definitely be angry." Li Si waved his hand. This plan was a classic example of digging a hole for oneself. With Dustless dead, the person who benefited the most would naturally be the first suspect. Then, Zhao Gao's pupils flashed with a terrifying red light as he revealed the true thoughts in his heart. He said sinisterly, "If that's the case, then we can only get rid of young Master Fu Su and support Hu Hai to ascend the throne. Otherwise, when Fu Su becomes the emperor in the future, forget about revenge. It would already be a blessing from the heavens if Lord Prime Minister is not killed by Zichen. Getting rid of Dustless or exiling him would mean that the position of emperor would fall into Hu Hai's hands. If Li Si wanted to take revenge on Dustless, he would be able to do as he pleased. Zichen, how are your studies going? In Shaoxing Xian Manor, Fu Nian looked seriously at the sloppy Dustless and angrily rebuked. You're about to marry the Yinyang School's young Master Ming, yet you're still idling around all day. What a scandal. I don't have the talent for studying, especially those boring books. Dustless casually responded. The ancient language was already cumbersome enough. If he still had to study the books every day, his brain would be damaged sooner or later. You don't even know a single word. The Yinyang School's young Master Ming is well-read, but you, sigh. As his voice fell, Fu Nian revealed a helpless expression. Why bother about such a small matter? The books of the saints are not to be memorized. Let nature take its course. Dustless continued to be perfunctory. He really didn't have the talent for studying, especially these books of the saints. Some of the so-called principles were also scoffed at in Dustless's eyes. He didn't take it to heart at all. What the ancient said might not be right. The day of the wedding is coming soon. Dustless sat cross-legged with his right hand supporting his chin. Recently, he had been thinking about whether he should find a suitable time to confess his identity to young Master Ming and tell her that Dustless was Zichen. Dustless was confident that even on the wedding night, young Master Ming wouldn't find out his true identity. But, using a disguised identity to be together with young Master Ming for 100 years and having sex with her was something that Dustless couldn't accept physically and mentally. In this way, what was the difference between him and Yen Dan who abandoned his wife and son? Dustless also had a bottom line in his heart. If he put himself in her shoes and thought about it, how would you feel if the person who was engaged to you had been using a disguise technique to face you? I should find a time to confess to young Master Ming. With this thought in mind, Dustless ignored Fu Nian's frown and left Little Saint Manor directly, rushing towards the elusive mirage that was parked near the Mulberry Sea. Now that Dustless's identity was different from before, no one dared to stop him from entering the elusive mirage. Moreover, he coincidentally bumped into Xing Hun. Oh, Lord Guardian Yuan, why are you in such a hurry? Are you in a hurry to be reincarnated? Seeing Xing Hun leaving in a hurry, Dustless turned into a stream of light and blocked his path. He didn't hold back and mocked him. You! Get out of my way! Seeing his most annoying nemesis, Xing Hun was furious. He said angrily, the moon deity and concubine Yen are meeting in secret. They must be plotting something. If you think you're a guardian of the school of Yinyang, you should come with me to catch those two suspects. Xing Hun, you seem to have forgotten your current identity. Glancing at the anxious Xing Hun, Dustless blocked his path and refused to give way. Yueshan is a guardian, and you are just Guardian Yuan. Remember, you're Guardian Yuan. You're just an ordinary disciple of the Yinyang school now. You don't have the right to interfere with her matters. Remember your identity. I'm not deaf. You don't have to repeat yourself. Xing Hun was extremely aggrieved. He glared at Dustless fiercely and could only leave with a face full of anger. He had no choice. What Dustless said was the truth. Xing Hun had been stripped of his status as a guardian, and was now just an ordinary Yinyang disciple with a low status. Chapter 1905. That damned Zichen. How dare he be so arrogant after stealing my identity? I'm so angry. Xing Hun's face contorted violently. This was all thanks to Wu Chen. Now, everyone was looking at him differently. They were filled with pity, sympathy, and ridicule. Yun Zhongjuan was the most affected. When they met in the past, Yun Zhongjuan would obediently call him Lord Xing Hun. But now, it was just a simple greeting to Xing Hun. He called him by his name. Isn't this Xing Hun? Why do you have such a long face? Speaking of the devil, Xing Hun looked up and saw Yun Zhongjuan. Humph! Xing Hun snorted in annoyance and secretly cursed Yun Zhongjuan for being a fence-sitter. When he was still a guardian, this guy had been trying to curry favor with him. Now that his position had been stolen by Dustless, Yun Zhongjuan did not seem to care about him anymore. Yun Zhongjuan, don't you have a long face too? Xing Hun glanced indifferently at Yun Zhongjuan, then stood with his hands behind his back and said lazily, We're still allies for now, so there's no need for us to mock and ridicule each other. The Inyang school is about to be snatched away by that brat Zichen, so we must take countermeasures. That makes sense. Yun Zhongjuan's vexed face flashed with anger. He said hatefully, Zichen is too arrogant. The last time he asked me for Yu Ziki, I didn't give it to him and he complained to Lord Donghuang. That guy is too much. That's right, Xinghun agreed and said gloomily. He is indeed relying on Lord Donghuang's favor to do whatever he wants. He doesn't care about us at all. I really don't know what's so special about him. I plan to kill that guy. Xinghun suddenly said something shocking. His face was distorted again. His eyes were rolling with a green light and his tone was as scary as a malicious spirit. Kill him? Yun Zhongjuan was startled. When he saw that there was no one around, he said incredulously, Are you crazy? That guy is highly regarded by Lord Donghuang. We are finished if we kill him. Idiot! Xinghun glanced at Yun Zhongjuan with a mocking gaze before he sneered and said, Lord Donghuang thinks so highly of him because Zichen is still alive. If he were dead, do you think Lord Donghuang would still care about him? This does make some sense. Once a person is dead, he has no value at all. He is just a skeleton. Xinghun's words left Yun Zhongjuan speechless. He fell silent for a moment, not knowing how to answer Xinghun. Yun Zhongjuan knew that if he couldn't kill Dustless, they would be the ones to be destroyed. This concerned their lives, so he naturally had to think twice before acting. Yun Zhongjuan, now that you're on my ship, don't even think about staying out of this. Looking at the hesitant Yun Zhongjuan, Xinghun urged, That brat is about to rule the school of Yinyang. The moon god and great Sea Ming both have a mysterious relationship with Zichen. Last time, when Zichen was in trouble, the moon goddess and great Sea Ming both stood out to help. You know young Sea Ming's situation better than I do. They are about to get married, so it's best to kill Zichen before they get married. After they get married, we won't have any right to speak anymore. That brat is indeed a huge threat to us if he's alive. Maybe the position of the head of the school of Yinyang will be his in the future. I will never allow that to happen. Yun Zhongjuan roared in a hoarse voice. He was full of resentment towards Dustless. In that case, I'll risk my life and go all out with you. But the two of us may not be his match. Yun Zhongjuan looked depressed. He had the honor of witnessing Dustless's powerful strength. Even if he joined forces with Xinghun, he reckoned that they would only be sending themselves to Dustless. Stupid. Xinghun glanced at Yun Zhongjuan and said calmly, Have you forgotten that there are 5 elders in the school of Yinyang? Besides Sea Ming and Great Sea Ming, there are 3 more elders. Besides you, there is also Xiangjuan and her wife, a Huang. You mean Xiangjuan and a Huang are on our side? Yun Zhongjuan asked in ecstasy. If it were in the past, they would definitely not participate in this kind of thing. But now, that brat Zichen is too powerful. Yueshan, Great Sea Ming, and young Sea Ming are all on his side. If we continue to observe, our school of Yinyang will become that brat's territory sooner or later. Xinghun was depressed when he said this. Initially, the school of Yinyang had planned to rope in Zichen and indirectly use him to control the Confucian school. But now, the situation had taken a dramatic turn. Not only had the Confucian school not been swallowed by the school of Yinyang, but the school of Yinyang was about to be swallowed by Dustless. That's right. If it were someone else who had unified the school of Yinyang, it would be fine. But Zichen is an outsider after all. I will never allow him to become the head of the school of Yinyang in the future. He's not qualified. Yun Zhongjuan's face was full of hostility. He was full of resentment towards Dustless. When Dustless had just become the left guardian, he had used his status to suppress and humiliate him. No one could tolerate this kind of thing if it happened to anyone. Then, Yun Zhongjuan narrowed his eyes. He looked at Xinghun and analyzed. You, me, Xiangjuan, and her wife Huang. The 4 of us may not be able to defeat Zichen. There are also 4 people over there. Zichen, Yueshan, Great Sea Ming, and young Sea Ming. And Zichen's strength is extraordinary. He can fight against the 4 of them alone. When he said this, the corners of Yun Zhongjuan's mouth began to twitch. He secretly cursed Dustless for being a freak. Hee. Unexpectedly, Xinghun just laughed sinisterly. A few golden worms suddenly appeared on his hand. He said coldly, "To be honest, before I came here, I have secretly placed the corpse deity Kursku in the places where Yueshan, young Si Ming, and great Si Ming live. In this way, do you think we have no chance of winning?" Yun Zhongjuan. Chapter 1906. You are indeed a genius. I will definitely get rid of Zichen this time. Yun Zhongjuan clapped his hands excitedly. His eyes were shining with a cruel light. It's necessary to prepare for a rainy day. Hearing Yun Zhongjuan's praise, Xing Hun's face was as calm as still water. He didn't care at all. Instead, he secretly despised Yun Zhongjuan's stupidity in his heart. There was a simpler and faster way to get rid of the opponent. Why did he have to blindly challenge Dustless? It was completely unnecessary. Young Master Ming's room was simple and clean. There was no complicated dressing table. That was completely unnecessary. There was no need to deliberately dress up. It was enough to keep it natural. The roots of the school of Yin Yang were also Taoists. They focused on cultivating one's body and mind. The female disciples of the school of Yin Yang didn't know anything about makeup. Creak. The door was gently pushed open. Young Master Ming wrinkled her nose. This person was very mysterious. Even she didn't sense any movement. "It's you." Seeing Dustless's face, young Master Ming was enlightened. Then, the corners of her mouth curled up and she squeezed out a cheerful smile. "Why can't it be me?" Dustless asked. Sensing young Master Ming's smile and her pleasant voice, he couldn't help but feel a little smug. Dustless was sure that the person young Master Ming had talked to the most in her life was him. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. How would young Master Ming feel if she knew his true identity? Come clean. What's to come can't be avoided. Looking at young Master Ming's clear eyes, Dustless threw the hesitation on his face away. "Young Master Ming, actually, my true identity is that the school of Yin Yang has always..." Bang! Not waiting for Wu Chen's voice to fall, the closed sliding door was kicked open by someone. This sudden loud noise made Dustless and young Master Ming frown. No matter what, this was young Master Ming's room. Even Xing Hun wouldn't dare to be so arrogant as to kick the door open. "Ha ha!" A haughty laugh sounded. Then, a middle-aged man with a sage-like demeanor appeared in front of them. His every move was accompanied by a breeze. Purple qi came from the east, making him look like a legendary immortal. Yun Zhongjuan? Seeing this man, Dustless and Xiaosi Ming glanced at each other, and both of them could see the surprise in each other's eyes. Humph. Dustless was fine, but Xiaosi Ming couldn't stand it anymore. She harumphed angrily as a cold light gathered in her eyes. After all, she was one of the 5 great elders of the school of Yin Yang. She was on the same level as Yun Zhongjuan. However, this guy had broken into her house without saying a word. Moreover, he was so arrogant. If young Master Ming didn't do anything about it, she would lose face. He would definitely become a laughingstock in the future. "Give me an explanation, Yun Zhongjuan." Xiaosi Ming slightly clenched her fists and questioned coldly. "Explain." Yun Zhongjuan stroked his beard like an old man and sneered. "Explain? What explanation do you need?" "Young Arbiter Ming, you and Zichen are already in such a state, and you still dare to ask me for an explanation? Why don't you kneel down and beg me to let you go?" "What do you mean? Are you planning to rebel?" Dustless was very interested. He couldn't help but be surprised by Yun Zhongjuan's arrogance. This guy had suddenly become much bolder. Before, when he saw him, he was always timid. Without a reasonable explanation, even if Dong Huang Tai is here, he can't save you. "Explain my ass." Yun Zhongjuan looked at Dustless's stinky face and cursed, which was rare for him. He was really an eyesore. Ever since this guy joined the school of Yin Yang, he had been possessed by bad luck. He often encountered all kinds of bad luck and couldn't even sleep well. "Don't play tricks with me. Don't think that I don't know that you too are now poisoned by the corpse god curse. After being bitten by that kind of insect, you can't use your internal force for an hour. You can't fool me." Yun Zhongjuan said confidently and unceremoniously exposed Dustless and Xiaosi Ming. He gnashed his teeth and said, "Especially you, Zichen. You dare to humiliate me again and again. This time, I will definitely torture you." Do you still remember Ziki last time? I've decided to make you into a medicine man too. The so-called medicine man, to put it bluntly, was a puppet. It had no consciousness and followed orders like a zombie. Corpse god curse? Dustless looked at Xiao Ming suspiciously, but the latter just shook her head, not understanding what Yun Zhongjuan was talking about. You saw it too, right? The two of us are not poisoned by the so-called corpse god curse. You've been deceived, Yun Zhongjuan. Dustless looked at this self-righteous fool with pity. He was most likely fooled by Xing Hun. Impossible, don't try to fool me. Yun Zhongjuan fixed his eyes on Xiao Ming and Dustless and retorted with a red face. Watch me tear your disguises apart. Swoosh, swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, the sword at Yun Zhongjuan's waist suddenly flew out of its scabbard. His whole aura changed. His eyes were like torches, scorching like knives. Then, the sword violently slashed at Xiao Ming and Dustless. Full of loopholes. Xiao Ming gently pointed her slender finger, and a large number of emerald green leaves on the bonsai drifted over. Million leaves flying flower stream. With a flick of her finger, a large number of leaves shot out like darts. There were so many of them that it was difficult to defend against them. Even the eyes were a little overwhelmed. Bastard, didn't you lose your inner strength? Xing Hun, that damned liar. How dare you deceive me, you despicable brat. Yun Zhongjuan's expression changed drastically. He cursed Xing Hun 1,000 times and quickly dodged to the side. Although he reacted in time, Yun Zhongjuan was still covered in cuts and bruises. Blood flowed freely. The seemingly weak leaves were sharper than a steel knife and easily shredded his skin. His entire body was covered in blood. Yun Zhongjuan thought that Xiao Ming and Dustless had lost their inner strength and were pretending to be calm, so he did not put up much defense. That was why Xiao Ming was able to succeed. You're really pitiful. Don't you know that you've been used by Xing Hun? If I'm not wrong, Xing Hun, that brat, is probably using you to buy time. How sad. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.